order now that we have everyone here. Alrighty, welcome everyone. A time being 7:03 p.m. on Monday, January 5th, 2026. I will read off the following before we get started. Pursuant to Section 20 of Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2020, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency and the June 30th, 2027 extension granted by Chapter 22 of the Acts of 2022, this meeting for the town of Bridgewater will be fully remote and accessible to the public through remote participation to the greatest extent possible. No in-person attendance is permitted. Citizens who wish to tune in to the meeting may do so via Zoom with the address listed on the top of the agenda. So now that I've called to order at 7:03 p.m., we will start with, excuse me, approval of meeting minutes from December 22nd. I'm hoping everybody had opportunity to read it in the last couple of weeks. So any comments, concerns, questions? All right, hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
So motioned.
Motion to approve made by Dr. Bennett. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, seconded by Mr. Higgins. Josh, can you take the roll call, please?
MJ,
Aye.
Derek,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Dana,
Aye.
Nick.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone. Now we will move on to item C, public comment. For note of record, for those who are in attendance who wish to speak, please state your name and your address here in town, and then you may speak. Anyone wish to comment? Going once? Going twice. All right. Moving on to item D. We actually have two items that we did have from our previous meeting that we are going to be discussing this evening. The first one will be Order OFY 26-042, Transfer Order for General Fund Capital Plan Transfers. And if you all recall, this was the item that would help transfer monies to fund our capital outlay expenditures for fiscal year 2026. And it also came along with the items listed, and the total amount, I believe, was $1,583,446.00. Gotta remember the important cents. But to refresh us, I will refer over to Ms. Garini, who is in attendance this evening, to give us a bit of a rundown again for those that may have forgotten.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I just wanted to again come before you and help explain if you have any questions. The appropriations that are alongside the capital plan that is also here for a vote tonight. This document is a snapshot, and it's always in flux of necessary items that the town considers capital-based, meaning it's not an operational need, it's more of an improvement, something more than $10,000 with an average lifespan of, 10 years or so. So it includes machinery, equipment, buildings, roadways, infrastructure, anything of that nature. So I did send a detailed worksheet with all of the listed projects, and I put a cover sheet on there to try to give a summary. So I did send that off right after our meeting, or maybe the weekend before. And I checked with Josh today and I didn't get any questions. So I'm here to answer any questions that I hopefully am able to, because I think that was what I was under the impression that everyone need a little more time to get into the details. So I'll be happy to answer any questions that I can. Again, Justin is in with the Budget and Finance Town Council Subcommittee. He has the IT director there. He was talking about the network appropriation. If he's gets done up in that meeting, he can come down and give you more of like a detailed information, but he did send me a paragraph or so of why he needs that equipment. So, yeah, I'm here to answer any questions. So I'll give it back to you, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you, Lori. I appreciate that. I know I was kind of surprised that we didn't really have that many questions coming from the group after we had the discussion that if folks had any questions, we could have them sent to Josh and then they'd be forwarded to you. But I suspect that folks looked through the materials a little bit further and may have either needed more time to read and understand what each item was for in order to ask questions this evening. I know I did have a couple of questions, but they relate to the library items. Um, my first question would be is, given the items that we do have before us for replacing some of the columns outside, the accessibility ramp, and also the carpeting inside the building, is there potentially a larger plan to potentially do a renovation of the library at some point, knowing that these are some major things, and I know the columns are in effect a more structural situation along with that archway at the back of the library. I'm wondering if there's going to need to be more of a concerted review of the structure itself before any additional work is done. Because I know a few years ago, if I remember correctly, the HVAC system was improved upon. One of the meeting rooms was cleaned up, if I remember. And correct me if I'm wrong. Was there some plumbing fixtures that had to be replaced too?
Um, yeah, so there was a building assessment done for the library. That was done, I believe over last summer. And we did have a report issued that I'm not really sure if the report was presented yet to the council. I can't remember that if it was or not, but there was some architectural and some assessments, which is why we kind of held off on doing some of the things for the library. But it gave us a good picture and a good report so that we can hopefully submit an application to the MBLC. I think they, at some point would like to, obviously, every building needs to be upgraded. This library is 33 years old or something. So, um, having the assessment done will give us a report so that we can make an application to the state and for a renovation or grants or things like that. And also so we didn't really do any major in this capital appropriation. We did have some other things that came out of an ADA accessibility assessment that we had done. So the columns weren't part of that. The columns are just all peeling and needed some work, but structurally, we're still looking at a major renovation at some point, obviously.
Mhm.
But we do need, to get some funding help if we're gonna look into that. So the things before you are, just to get it in a safe and healthy and you know, nice looking environment because the carpets are just worn, the stair treads, those things that um, need to be done to make the library presentable to the public. So
Yeah. I guess a follow-up question then, Laurie, and I'm not sure if you're aware of it at all or not. Do you know if there's going to be a change in how we programmatically look at the buildings and maintain them? I know that carpets can be hard to maintain, knowing that we do not have oftentimes the resources to maintain our buildings over the long term. Is there a potential to possibly do these renovations with materials that are going to be more long-term lasting? I mean, I would suspect that in the modern day and age, carpets are a little less than helpful when it comes to maintenance and cleaning, and this feels like it could end up being something that we would probably need to have a better program of maintenance to care for over the next few years. But knowing our resources are short, I don't know if that would be something that if Justin's maybe spoken to you about it, or if, from that building audit, if that was any information that was gleaned.
yeah, well, I haven't I wasn't part of the presentation of the assessment itself. The interim town manager and the library director, and I'm not really sure. I wasn't part of that, so I'm sure there is some plan going forward. But what I can just tell you is that, the public library is heavily used. So it's open every day or, 6 days a week. So it does, when the public's using it, and obviously things are gonna get worn and carpeting and things like that. So um there has been some replacement over the years. I think 2 or 3 years ago, they did a section of it of replacement of the carpet, or maybe I think downstairs they had a water problem, so they had to rip up the rugs and do that. So it is being maintained. So, we are looking at long-term maintenance too, but I think for now, this is what needs to be done, you know, for this year.
The Excellent. Thank you, Laurie. The one other thing I probably would note, just to, if you want to share with Justin, I think the other thing that really needs to be cared for at the library is actually the parking lot and the sidewalk that goes from South Street into the parking lot, because the
Oh.
curbing is kind of bad. I know they've repaved that entranceway, but the majority of that parking lot does need a serious resurfacing, especially where there are some trip hazards closer towards the back, and some of the pavement has started to delaminate towards the back, because the backmost part of that parking lot was actually just dug out and given a light, like almost like a skim coat over what was dirt and soil. I only remember because I, as a kid, was part of some of the things that some of the activities that helped raise awareness that the library is being done over, and a lot of the kids groups were actually at the library at that time.
Sure. Yeah.
But I think that's the only other thing I could think of for the library. For the police station, the repair needed for the police station is a little concerning. Where in the summary, it said that the building's water tightness wasn't necessarily addressed when the building was done 23 years ago, and that kind of surprised me. Usually that's something that's like a punch list item. I'm not going to say how this managed to get away from anybody, but it kind of concerns me that it didn't come up like sooner, because a building having um, leak issues or water infiltration or absorption usually gets to be a problem after a while. And I don't know if this has been something that's just been languishing in the back, as it were, or if it was something that was found during that review of the buildings. Uh, Plus, also, do we think that this is just going to be the amount that's needed, or is it potentially a more costly project as they go along?
Well, again, this building is, 23 years old. And I only know what was written here. It's being maintained really well. The police department does a really good job at maintaining everything. I mean, if there was a water leak from this not being done, I'm sure this would have been addressed sooner. I think they're okay. But because the building is getting on in age, this has been on for the last 3 years. The police chief, in addition to the facilities coordinator, they asked that they could do it this year because, again, the building is getting older, and as it gets older, you want to try to protect it as much as you can, and it has gotten through, pretty well. It's held up really well, and it's been maintained very nicely. So I think they think doing this will keep it that way.
Excellent. And then I think the last thing I wanted to ask about was actually the police fleet vehicles. Did they give you any additional detail as to what vehicles they were going to replace? Are we replacing the vehicles with Ford Police Interceptor SUVs, or larger Chevrolet SUVs?
I was told that they're replacing three of the street on the road interceptors that are with the high mileage. So that's what they're doing.
Yeah, I think the oldest one is a Ford Police Interceptor that goes back to I think probably 2014 or 2015. That's the only one I can think of because it's one of the older designs of the Ford Explorer. Um, so that was basically all my questions that I had. Um, I would certainly open it up to other members if they have any other questions, since Laurie is here to ask and answer.
Thank you, MJ. Laurie, a question. We're looking at these vehicles as being hybrids. Why aren't we looking at strictly gasoline-powered vehicles?
Well, the police chief in his meetings with us said the hybrids they run better. They get better. It's better for the officers. They said the usage of the repairs and everything and the gas, I guess, but I don't think the gasoline really or the energy savings is why the vehicles are just made better. So he thinks that it's been a good investment for the town. So,
Um,
And-
have we
So,
consulted? Go ahead. I'm sorry, John.
No, as a follow-up to that, is there any financial proof to any of this, or it's just his
Mm.
gut feel?
well, I could have him, talk about it. I can't answer that, but I can find
Right.
out. Mhm.
We don't expect you to be able to pull that out of a bag and say, "Hey, guys, it's right here."
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
I can certainly follow up with him and have him, answer these questions or, in an email to everyone, if I had known any of these ahead of time, I could have gotten them for you too. So,
And just for some general edification for everyone, just to note for record, I am a car bore, so I know a bit about automobiles. The Ford Police Interceptor vehicles, the EcoBoost engines that they have in those cars are a more modified version of what's the standard civilian market EcoBoost engines. So they do have a bit of a mild hybrid setup. They are a bit more fuel efficient than what you would have in the civilian range. So I think barring us having an information sheet from the police chief on any of the vehicles, that's what I'm aware of that most police vehicles now certainly do offer. Ford has been really making those changes with their vehicles and their engine setups to be a little bit easier to maintain and also be more fuel efficient to save costs in the long run, for most police fleets. And they're held to very strict standards. I believe the police organization that really does do a lot of testing is I think California Highway State Patrol and then also Michigan State Police are two of like the biggest departments in the country that actually do some of these like intensive testings and vehicles meet those types of requirements. But for the most part, I believe these Ford Police Interceptor vehicles probably have the EcoBoost, probably 2.3-liter engine, and they're very efficient.
and the outlet to purchase these, do we get quotes from them to see if there are multiple uh, 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 places to purchase, so to speak? Just looking out for the town.
yep.
We do,
Yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, we use the state bid list. So a lot of the the
right?
I forget, I can't even think of the one that we usually go to all the time, but yeah, there's several car dealers that, compete to get on the state bid list.
Mhm.
And there are, more than one, I mean, because there's all different types of vehicles or whatever, but yeah, so we do use the state bid list and, we get the best pricing possible. It's funny when you see the vehicles that you're buying an invoice and you're like, oh, they're getting a deal. So yeah, they are getting the best and most competitive prices that the town cannot possibly get. So great question.
And and to add on to that for Lori, the system that the town uses is actually operational service divisions is Combi system,
Hmm.
if I'm correct. And
Correct.
they each of the system is set up so that it has various pull lists for various types of material and capital assets, chief among them vehicles and vehicle upfitting. So you can effectively go to a bid list that the Commonwealth has already gone out to bid on, already gotten the contracts, and you're able to select the outlet with which to purchase the vehicles. Some of them do the upfitting for you, added in as part of the sales price, and it is very competitive. I know for the short time I was able to use Combis and understand it was very competitive even back in 2017, 2018 when I think when we migrated it to it as the town. So it is very competitive. It is good to save money on, and you know, most police cruisers go now just with the price of vehicles, 60, 70, topward out at $100,000 for a mid-size SUV. So it can be a bit spendy, but the price that I saw here seems fairly fairly good range.
Okay.
It's actually kind of funny that you bring it up because that was the first job I ever had after college, was working in processing the applicants for the bid list.
Bit of deep lore there for Dr. Bennett. John, I saw you I wanted to
Yeah,
ask a question.
MJ, and so first off, I'll apologize. I think I misunderstood that we were supposed to submit our questions in advance, because I went through this list and I have a lot of questions, as I always do, but and I feel bad I didn't get them in. So I dropped the ball on that one, but it sounds like I might not be the only one here. But
Yeah.
I didn't understand that's what we're supposed to do. But so one on I guess I'll go to the biggest one first, is the server and all the computer stuff on here in this one, and then in the next 4 to 5 years. So I guess as a finance committee, I'd love to see, have we done an analysis of whether we take this thing and send it out to a third party? Because we're going to do about $700,000 in the next 2 years to upgrade a server room. And that doesn't include, so we still are going to pay for all the different licenses, the applications, everything, which are all going through operating budgets. We're upgrading about $50,000 worth of computers this year. I don't even know how many computers we have, but to me, it says we're going to spend somewhere between $800,000 in the next 2 years on upgrading computer systems. And I would certainly love to see the analysis that justifies that, number one. And then if you throw the salaries in on top of it, should it be something that we're sending out to a third party? So,
Well, yeah, that's, I have, Brad, Desirzak, he's our professional here, so, I'm gonna let him answer your questions.
okay.
Brad?
How's it going,
Hello.
everybody? Sorry I'm a little late. I just came from the other meeting and now I'm jumping into this one. No, I mean, basically, so we have a couple things, I believe, on the capital plan for this year. I mean, one being, well, the $230,000, and the other one being a $50,000 item for computer upgrades. I'll start with the easy one, computer upgrades. That is just, we're in a cycle of replacing our computers, laptops, desktops in town, and it's just, this has been something that we've had for the last, I think, two years. This is our third cycle of upgrading our town laptops and desktops, our endpoints, as we would call it. I mean, we roughly do about anywhere between 30 to 35 computers with this amount. We cover general government, public safety. It's all these computers that we have to replace. Also, I mean, quickly, there's a $30,000 for next year. That is also it's to finish off the remainder of this computer upgrade, which includes mainly police laptops in cruisers as well as ambulance laptops as well. So it's this 50,000 that's right now. The last two groups I have is library, and I have to do the public safety departments. So that's where the 50 for this year is going. Right, it's going towards police, fire, and the library. With the one for next year is to do our last final upgrade with our police car laptops as well as the ambulance laptops, which were last purchased, I think, in 2021. So it's, we try to get a 3 to 5 year cycle going on these. And after next year, we'll we'll have like a 2-year hiatus before we'll start replacing them all over again. We try to do 50,000 because it gets us somewhere between, depending on cost and what kind of models we have to get for the departments, anywhere between 30 to 35 laptops. We can replace the majority of, we have close to, I think, 200 endpoints in town. That's where that is going. The biggest request right now is the $230,000 for our data center, which I can say right now is roughly about 6 years. It's coming on 6 years old right now, which is the end of lifespan for a data center, which runs 24/7, 365. With our last data center being upgraded in 2019, the thing with our last upgrade, we did not upgrade our software licensing with it. We were able to maintain our existing licensing. So this $230,000 includes, with the implementation costs, about, I would say, $50,000 of this is software Windows licensing. For example, we are currently on Windows 2016, which end of life with Microsoft is beginning of 2027. So we need to start looking at replacing that. So this includes replacing our Microsoft data center licenses to Microsoft, its Server 2025, as well as it's a new data center, which currently, I mean, as I said, our current data center is about 6 years old, and it's starting to wear on us as well. One thing we are moving from is, our current environment has, we're on a virtual environment. We use VMware. We have servers and we have a storage array. With our new environment that I'm asking for this funding for, we're moving to a hyper-converged environment, because right now, one of my biggest things right now is our ESX host licensing, our VMware licensing. VMware was purchased by Broadcom about 2 years ago, and they've completely, in the industry, changed the licensing model. We used to have perpetual licensing, which would cost us about $5,000, and it's now in a subscription model that's going to be costing $25,000 a year, which, I mean, over 5 years is, going to be somewhere in excess of 125 to maybe 150,000, depending if they decide to change it on us. Right now, it's about $25,000 annually. So with this new environment, we're going to a hyper-converged environment using Nutanix, which is perpetual licensing, which with this $230,000, it will upgrade our systems, and we'll be able to maintain that, which is roughly an estimated cost about $46,000, a year over the 5 years. We have started looking into even going cloud hosted, but
Hallelujah.
it's the only thing is right now it's too expensive for us because it's a per month cost, and right now one of the biggest issues I'm also dealing with is with this increase in the use of AI right now, memory and storage costs are going through the roof.
Mhm.
So I mean, as this is moving, like this is a moving target number right now, so we need to lock it in now because this was held off from last year. We held off another year, and I mean, it's increased in more than 10% in a year. I don't want to know what it's going to look like next year, because I know, for example, like Samsung, for example, who's a big manufacturer of a lot of different things, memory storage, cell phones. I mean, they're increasing their prices anywhere between 30 to 50% right now because of a chip shortage. So, right now we're trying to lock this in and get this done, and at least be stable for the next 5 years.
But Brad, I kind of understand what you're saying. You went through a
Yep.
lot of detail there.
Yep.
But if you went out and bought a 365 license for all of these 200 endpoints, I mean, what is it, $15 a month or $20 a month?
It's for us, it's 29. It's like $29 per person. 29 per month per user.
Okay, so $30. So we're looking
Yeah.
at what, about $6,000 per month. and then you'll get all the storage you need on that, and then you'll also have the backup on that as well. I don't want to sit here and debate whether the pricing of all this, but I'm just saying in the private sector, we went and took everything up to the cloud because for all the reasons you just gave, memory's going up, the price of storage is going up, technology, the minute you buy this thing is going to be out of sync or dated already. And we've started the cycle again for another $600,000 upgrade. And I'd just love to know if we've looked at all the costs involved and see, would it be cheaper for us to take it to the cloud?
I right now, I don't think it would be a cost-effective solution to do it just because of the influx of monthly costs that we would have to put in the budget in order to make that happen. I mean, right now in our virtual environment, we have 45 servers. Right now, just looking at, basic numbers from the internet, to spin up a server to maintain those 45 servers, each server is anywhere between $50 to $100 a month. That just blows the budget way out of proportion, especially if we migrated right now we're in a hybrid environment. It doesn't cost us anything. If we were to go to full cloud for just our Active Directory users, it would probably cost us $32,000 a year. That's just on the user side. So I mean, I don't think that's going to be, you're going to be spending anywhere between $50,000 to $100,000 in a year. I just don't think that's the most cost-effective solution right now. I mean, we are cloud-based in some of our aspects, but some stuff, some of our systems that we have, I mean, where you're talking 365, that's file share all day long. I mean, we do use that, but I mean, the systems that we have here are, our public safety systems, things like that. I mean, they can't live in the cloud. They have to live somewhere on-prem, and we do have a virtual environment, but that's what's allowing us to maintain what we have right now. I mean, this is just to maintain our current systems as we have it right now.
So Brad, I'm sorry.
Yep.
What you just said, I'm trying to digest that.
Yep.
So public safety, you're saying, why again? Yes, no public safety is in the cloud. Is that correct?
Their public safety software, no, it's a virtual server that lives in town.
No, I'm not talking about Bridgewater. I'm talking about
Yep.
anybody. So is everybody, because of what you just said, that means everyone, that all of their public safety is all, living in the community, is not in the cloud.
I guess I don't understand what you're asking.
Well, what you said is that, they can't live in the cloud. That
Well,
can't be cloud-based.
Our current software that we have cannot live in the cloud. Because it's 20 years old, it cannot live in the cloud. I mean, yes, there are public safety softwares out there that are cloud-based. Our financial software we use, Munis, is a software as a service, lives in a data center that's not here. But in order to make that change, we're going to probably have to spend $250,000 to get rid of the software that we currently have. I mean, our public safety software is 20 years old. It cannot right now live in the cloud because the way that we need to interact with it, because the police cars talk to a server that's in the police department that talks to the virtual system. We have some things, yes, could live in the cloud, but not everything that we have right now can live in the cloud.
So what you're talking about is everything that you just discussed is ancient in the technology world. I'm sure there are SaaS models that, yep, you're right, we might have to make an investment, but it looks like we're going to be making an investment anyway. So you're using 20-year-old software with them currently, and there's a potential that they could either go out, get sold, or they find something better that, hey, listen, maybe we ought to look into this. So we'll be doing the same thing. I think.
Well, we have been looking for a new software. It's just, I mean, right now we have other priorities right now that are more important.
You know what? I hate to say it, but I think that's what we're going to find out about the budget. There are priorities out there that might take and make some of these things look like they're not necessary. at this particular juncture. I believe there's a date of 2031 to have a fully funded the municipal retirement system that's supposed to be fully funded. It's not. We haven't even looked at that. We're talking budget issues. I come from the business world, and that's how we look at things. What are the costs? What are the major costs that we're going to be dealing with? The taxpayers are they're the shareholders, and they wouldn't sit at a meeting and say, guys, why are you spending money on these things when you've got these massive gorillas in the room that need to be looked at? So I sometimes I understand where we are. I've lived in Bridgewater for the last 40 years, so I understand a little bit. But maybe perhaps even looking at some of the things that we're talking about in this particular $1.5 million funding list, that we might want to look at where we're allocating the funds, where they're going. And maybe some of those bigger issues are there. But something like this, when you're looking at public safety, that's usually a priority for any community. So, you want to be as efficient as possible. And Brad, I know that you've been here for a while in the town of Bridgewater. So you've seen some pretty dramatic changes. I think when you came here, we were were you here? I think you were when we got the computers from the college. Were you here when that happened?
Yeah, I've been here since 2002.
Okay, so and that basically was a disaster. But the bottom line is that I know you're trying to do what's best for the town, and we're trying to do the same thing from a little bit of a different perspective. Every single group is an island, and they're all looking at what they believe is right for them, and it doesn't always work to the best interest of what the needs of the community at large are. So, just a curiosity, I've been in the SaaS world for 15 years, and I've seen that and how it works and how literally, I was there in healthcare, and healthcare made a major lift to get into that, whereas almost everything now is in the cloud. And I heard basically the same arguments from many of the facilities that, listen, this is how we have to do this, and now they're in the cloud. So I'm just trying to think that we might want to look at this as this is where things look like they're going. I think you'd agree with that.
I would, but right now I don't think the cloud is the most effective solution. I mean, I am looking at the cloud. Maybe we can move some stuff, but right now I can't move everything to the cloud because there's stuff that we need on-prem to be able to, function our everyday business as we do as the town.
Well, I think the reason for me bringing this up, though, was just to go and see, maybe it is the best solution, Brad, but when you're asking us to commit probably somewhere in the 800,000 and above amounts over the next 2 years, could we at least get the analysis where you've gone and looked at these two different options side by side? And then, that would make me feel better before we go appropriate 800 grand. I know you were throwing figures out there off the top of your head, but I think I got an average of $1,500 for a laptop, and you say we need new ones every 4 years. That seems a little bit on the high side. Coming from the private world, we never replaced them every 4 years, and $1,500 seems like a lot of money. But again, I'm not really sure what we need to configure them to, because I don't have an analysis, and I really don't want to get into it at that level. But I do want to understand that we're doing the right thing, committing to another server room or an upgrade to a data center, as opposed to taking this thing to the cloud.
And I can just chime in from just from being here for a number of years. The public safety software is a problem community-wide, I think, in all the communities. You have a police chief who is the chief of the chiefs, and and he's always talking to the other chiefs and all of the 300 and some odd communities. So there, he doesn't want to buy anything that hasn't been tested and is working. So there's nothing out there that works better right now with within our town anyway, that he can see. So we have been looking for the past 5 years or so, trying to improve the technology. But the software that we've had has changed companies over the few years. They've done upgrades, and I mean, it seems like it's 20 years old, but it's upgraded fairly, all the time. But there's nothing newer out there that's in the cloud for our police and fire. They use the same current software. So I can just add that to,
Lori,
what Brad's comments are.
if I may ask, Lori, just to follow up to your
Sure.
perspective, um, are we looking at similar town like ours, or are we looking at like major cities that would have a more complex, more robust, more like there's a heavier need,
Right.
right? Because if we're doing that and we're comparing, what our little town has with other little towns, that's not,
Yeah.
that's not a fair
Apples to
balancing
apples.
versus
Mhm.
looking at it from like, all right,
Right.
what are major
Yeah.
cities are doing? What upgrades have they implemented that number one would allow them to do their work more efficiently and
Sure.
productively, and then number two, saving taxpayers, utilizing taxpayer dollars in a more efficient manner.
Absolutely. Right. I mean, that's the chief's job too, to make sure he's getting the best, and your um Brad's job too is to determine, what's the best costs. We know here more than anyone, and as you guys volunteer, you don't even get paid, but we know, we're here to save money for the taxpayer, and that's our job. We're going to always try to do what's best and look at the best equipment for the town, the best, software and all that. I think the chief, looks at probably the cities, we're the city of Bridgewater, the town of Bridgewater known as the city. So I think, he does look at the big and the little towns, but I definitely know we're comparing ourselves to busy communities as well in the city, more of the cities. So I hope that answers your question, Reg.
Yeah, thank you. It gave me a little additional perspective. I guess I just have another question. Or I have a question for Brad. And I apologize if you may have already answered it or someone else may have asked. The computer buyback, is there a computer buyback program that's in place that, if these computers need to be replaced, um, is the town selling them, or the institution that what happens to the old computers, I guess, ultimately, and then yeah, what happens to them?
Um, there's really no buyback for them. With the basically they get recycled. We have a recycling company that will come and take them away for us. It's right down the highway. But basically when we get rid of upgrade a laptop, we take the hard drive out because, it has sensitive data on it, and then we recycle the laptop. We try to repurpose them if we can. We use some for spare laptops and things like that, but
Training and yeah. Mhm.
yeah, so I mean, we do try to reuse them, but at a certain point we have to recycle them. So we have a company that will recycle them for us.
Just a follow-up question. Thank you, Brad. Is there a way that maybe like the high school as an example, or the school system, the Bridgewater Rainham, with its finance challenges, is there a way that those laptops and those computers can funnel down and be repurposed, and be a cost savings on that end?
We can definitely talk to them and see if that's something that they would be into. I know They use a lot of Chromebooks. I don't know how many laptops, desktops they actually use. I know they're more Google based. So, I mean, we would just have to have a question with the school district, have a conversation with the school district to see if that's something that they would be interested in doing.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Brad, I did have a question. So because the server room does host a lot of software on it, the Academy building is this software for heating and cooling. Is that going to be part of that potential upgrade to software? Just knowing that, obviously it was state of the art when your office and my old office, the town manager's office, moved into the building and was sort of top of the line back in 2016. Is that part of the plan to replace that software too?
Well, those controllers are still current. We do have an HVAC server that is actually running, in our server environment that we can control all of the different controllers from. But those controllers have had upgrades already in the past, I'd say 5 years or so. They've been upgraded with the latest, firmware, but those are still the controllers and the software are current as of right now. We do upgrades on that stuff periodically.
Okay.
With the HVAC vendor.
Excellent. Thank you, Brad. Did any other members have any questions? And just as a reminder, when asking questions, please ask them through the chair.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. I meant to say that. Thank
That's
you.
all right. Just want to keep everything going with Robert's Rules of Order here. Did any other members have any questions or queries?
Don does.
Oh,
Don does.
I've got a ton of questions, but I mean, so even when we start with the first car, the general government car, I mean, so I understand it doesn't sound like we're going to make any progress on the server room or that with an analysis. But if we even look at the first car, we're buying a brand new car for $45,000. I guess the question would be, MJ, through you, is does it have to be an electric car? Does it have to be brand new? It's for an electrical inspector. And then down in your comments, Lori, it says the other one was crashed. So what, did we get a payout on the crash? And if we did, where did that go?
Yeah.
Is this figure net of that or is it gross of that?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So one of the cars that was recently totaled, that I think the insurance on that was about 18,000. So that's sitting in insurance recovery to be applied to whether it's this vehicle or if we don't buy a new vehicle, it goes back to the general fund, the insurance money. But yeah, I mean, I think to even order a car, we need an appropriation. We don't like to order, you can't get a car now like you used to. Like you have to, some of them are 6 to 8 months out. So that's why we put the appropriation on before we order it. And if we could get something that's less expensive, that money gets returned. I mean, we don't just pick a number and spend the whole thing. So we'll buy the car if we use the insurance money. If it comes out this year, that insurance money will go as a down payment towards the car, come off at the top. Also with the money, they just outfit it to whoever needs it. I mean, I don't think there's a big outfit in this general government car, but I think, so this car is to replace actually the building inspector's driving an older car. So I think that's who this car is for, not the electrical inspector. And the current building inspector is not driving an EV. He's driving a regular car. So we have not decided, I think, if we're buying a hybrid or an EV or a gasoline power.
Yeah. So with that being said, as a follow-up question through you, Madam Chair, so we've got 18 grand in the bank, but you want us to appropriate 45,000 out of the capital fund, and then what happens after that? So if you only spend 27, but you're saying it could be 6 to 8 months out. If we need a car, can't we just go take the 18, go buy a used car and take it right out of the insurance fund and take this whole thing out of the capital budget?
Well, through you, Madam Chair, so this vehicle was in the capital plan before the other car crash, so we just got that money, so it wasn't known at the time when we're putting this in front of you. But obviously, some of these projects come in more or less than what they are, and anytime there's excess money, it does go back, so. I probably should have reduced this before I put it before you all, knowing that the insurance money, but we could reduce this with the insurance money too.
Thank you, Mr. Higgins. I see Mr. Raymond does have a question. Chris?
Yeah, sorry. Just back to IT stuff. I'm just wondering have you looked into any of the grants out there for um investing in IT projects in the town? I just did a quick search. It looks like there's a grant available out there now for $200,000 for one-time capital needs. I don't know if that's something we've considered before, but if investing in our IT infrastructure and stuff like that is something we're going to be looking into, it might be worth taking a look at that.
Yeah, so that's through you, Madam Chair, that's a great question. We are constantly applying for grants. We get grants through what is the Community Compact Grant?
Yeah, if that's the Compact Community Grant, it
Yeah.
just opened up, and we will be applying for it. We have to figure out what we're going to apply for. But yes, that is one that just opened up, and I think we have like a month or so before we need to get the application in. But going to have a conversation with the town manager and figure out what's the best need for that grant before we apply.
No, but that's a great question. So the Community Compact Grant with the going towards IT. Some communities, I think you have to go every other year, maybe you can
Yes,
apply, like you're only limited to how much you can apply. And I think last year or 2 years ago, we were able to use some I don't know how much Brad can tell you how much the fiber project. So we ran fiber down to the new fire station. We've run fiber, downtown too. So using the grant to instead
Yeah,
of
so it was
payment.
it was last year. We got the fiber grant. It was $189,000, I believe. Which we ran fiber from the center of town all the way out to the new fire station, as well as we upgraded our fiber that went to the Bridgewater State University. It went from the Academy building to the Maxwell Library to enhance our connection to BSU and to be able to share more stuff with the university. But yeah, we do apply I couldn't apply for the Compact Community Grant last year because we got the fiber grant, but we are going to try to apply for it this year. Because it is every other year that you can't do it 2 consecutive years, but it's every other year that you will be awarded something. I know we do have some other requests as well. I have a radio recording system we have to do for public safety. That's one other thing that is probably about $30,000 to $40,000. So there are a couple other things that we are looking at for those grants as well. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. Thank you. And just thinking if the town is looking to invest in a whole overhaul of converting everything to cloud-based, maybe using the grant for planning and design, consultation, stuff like that might be pricey, might make the best or make the most sense. But yeah, it sounds like you guys are well aware of it, so just wanted to bring it up.
No, that's great. No, I mean that's a good use of that too, is finding that out.
Hey, did any other members have any questions? Hearing none. I would entertain a motion. We need to vote on this tonight, right, Josh?
Yep.
Okay.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Sure, Miss Sullivan, what do you have?
Are we voting on the transfer or the capital plan first?
So it looks like we probably should vote on the capital plan first, I would think. But since this was first in order on the agenda and we've already engaged in the discussion, we actually need to vote on the funding first. Is that correct, Josh?
So you guys are discussing FY 26042,
That's
which is
correct.
the general fund capital plan transfers.
Mm-hmm.
And just from my understanding, why do we need to vote tonight? I mean, I'm new to this, Josh. I'm not. Where are we in the process? Or
Well, it's on town council's agenda for tomorrow.
So basically, at this point, John, they're looking for our advice as to move forward on it, or if there's any amendments that I assume we can make amendments or make suggestions for them to look at. Is that correct, Josh?
I don't know about making amendments.
Okay. Then we might be just voting for it in the as-is condition, either up or down.
Yeah, so yours is just a recommendation vote, not an approval vote. Budget and finance are the ones that make the can make amendments.
All right then. Yep. So basically, what this is going to allow us to do is, if it is approved this evening, this is going to go back to budget and finance when they have their meeting tomorrow night before the council meeting, if I'm correct, and then they'll be able to make any adjustments or changes on it based upon our recommendation.
They actually met tonight.
Oh, they did meet tonight. Okay.
Yeah, at 6:30.
All right.
Yeah, I would say moving forward, if that was something, you guys wanted to work with the budget and finance, I can talk to Debbie and get a joint meeting going. And then if we could get the questions to Lori, that way everybody's prepared and going in, and you can make the recommendation that way. But yeah, they met at 6:30 tonight.
Do you by chance know what their decision on it was?
I do not know.
Okay.
I believe they were still going when I started this meeting.
Okay. All right.
Excuse me, MJ, if I
sorry,
may,
but-
through you.
Yes, Mr. Palmieri.
Sir, thank you. Laurie, I'm assuming that you have, along with this information, any item that required quotes, that the quotes are available. So could that information be included in future items such as this? So we could see, this is great. You get, with what the information that we got, it gave us a much better idea of what we're dealing with, but we'd
Yeah.
be able to see quotes as well.
So yeah, through you, Madam Chair. Yeah, we get the quotes. I like to, there are a few of them that I copy and I take a snippet and I put it right inside the project. So we do have all that information because we obviously ask for that information to make an estimate, right? So the department heads do that process. So yeah, I can send you guys, just for your information, what I have for this particular year, I could forward along. But yeah, going forward, we'll certainly make that available. For
It
sure.
might eliminate some questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, so it's difficult sometimes doing this online. I mean, in person, we would, if you wanted some printouts, like I would have printed. It's trying to make the best of this. So whatever you guys need, I'll provide. Absolutely. Yeah. Tell me what you want and I'll give it all.
Much appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah.
And definitely to note, especially when it comes to stuff like the capital plan, we definitely probably should be meeting with the budget and finance subcommittee, just because without our recommendation, their action tonight, at this point, we're just for all intents and purposes, we're basically rubber stamping whatever they've already, worst case scenario, they've already gone into their meeting this evening and already said yes to it, along with the capital plan. And all we're doing is giving them consent after the fact.
What a way to run an airline.
Yes, Nick, that is sort of the walking contradiction of committee work sometimes. But it is something that I thought honestly that the Budget and Finance Committee was meeting tomorrow night before the council meeting so that we could have our activities tonight. Knowing that they met tonight, I was not aware that they were meeting tonight, and I was not contacted by the Budget and Finance Committee chair. So, unfortunately, and this is much to my chagrin, that we have now been put in a position of basically, if the committee wills it, however the vote's going to go, worst case scenario, we're just rubber stamping it, and they're just going to do what they've already done if they haven't already voted on it already.
So excuse me, MJ, what would happen is if we come to the conclusion that it's a majority no vote?
So this has happened in the past a couple of times. Case in point, back in the earlier part of 2025, town council proposed to install a flagpole out front of the academy building for the tune of $25,000. When we were in that joint meeting with council, and it was sort of the joint meeting between school committee, town council, and finance committee, the majority of us voted no. The council said yes. It eventually, the proposal was eventually rescinded, but our recommendation as a committee to say no, we don't recommend using this one-time funds of $25,000 for this purpose. The council basically just overrode us, and it really lays bare something that I think will come up in our conversation later on in the meeting. And that's why I actually have the charter and admin code open so we can actually discuss it a little bit more. But it has happened in the past where we have said no as a committee collectively, whether I was a member of it or I was taking notes for the committee in the past. It has happened where the committee has said no on some things, and the council just goes right ahead and takes their action on it and does what they need to do, and effectively, basically, relegates the opinion of the finance committee moot point.
Hi, Madam
Yes, Laura.
Chair, can I just for some information for the committee? The Budget and Finance Subcommittee met tonight because they are having a general public meeting tomorrow at 5:30. So I don't know if everyone knows that the town council is having this general public meeting with an agenda, pretty much to talk about policies and guidelines that you're looking for in the upcoming fiscal year, I think. And plus they have to have a meeting, I think annually per the charter, but
Yeah, they're required by charter.
so tomorrow there's a 5:30 meeting scheduled, and then they're gonna have their regular council meeting at 7. So I think, for this group, trying to kind of, if you can't go to the meeting or watch it live, they do record the meetings, and it's good to get the information that they're talking about, and you can see some of the public comments and see what's going on, or even the topics. So I think just mentioning that, I wanted to make sure that this group knew that meeting was happening tomorrow at 5:30. So
I appreciate that, Lori. The thing that bothers, I think my frustration is probably fairly audible to everyone here, is that, again, the Budget and Finance Committee having this knowledge, not everybody looks at the calendar or looks at that schedule or knew that the January 6th meeting was coming up, that our committee was not collectively informed that they were having their meeting tonight and that there wasn't going to be something prior to, unless someone else had additional information that I wasn't privy to. I expected that our conversation this evening here on these two orders, we would have been able to give full deliberation and our recommendation to the Budget and Finance Committee to then give to town council. It kind of feels like we've done this in reverse. They're already going to act on it, and right now, worst case scenario, everyone says, I could see it unanimously being a unanimous 0 to however number of folks we have here this evening, and they've already gone ahead and done something. It's frustrating when we as an appointed committee representing the townspeople are asked to do work, and then the other organs of local government, I'm not saying departments because departments have been more than helpful to us and acquiescent in assisting us, but my frustration lays with those who would need to receive our opinion as a collective group in order to take their action. Because worst case scenario, if I call a motion and someone says motion to deny or reject or not recommend, I suppose I'm just spinning in the wind on this, but it basically kneecaps our ability to have that advisory and consent to council. And I feel like that's more of a, I guess, functional fiat of the council. But I feel like we need to be included more. But I will save that commentary for our later discussion in the meeting on our agenda.
MJ, and just to help clarify, your guys' vote doesn't go to the budget and finance. It goes to the town council.
Okay.
So there's been several times where you guys haven't been able to meet for quorum and budget and finance meets. They don't always meet right before the town council meetings. And then I send it over to Debbie, and she provides that to the town council president, who then states your guys' vote at the town council meeting.
So then ultimately, if we do make a decision on it, it's going to go just straight to the council and then be added along with budget and finance's opinion.
Yeah, it goes, if you look at their agenda, it details how the finance committee has voted and how budget and finance voted.
Okay. All right. Did any other members have any questions? John?
I do have one question, MJ. So what I think I'm hearing here is we either vote the whole 1.57 or nothing at all then, right? We can't, because we're not going to go through each one of these line items and say yay or nay. And I'd like to know from my personal perspective, I do have a list of questions, and it was through my own, I dropped the ball on sending them to Lori in advance or to the whole committee in advance. So I would like to make a vote that we take more time to not study this, but just get these questions answered. And then can we not vote for one part of it and still get other parts in? Or do we have to take the whole thing collectively? Because to me, I look at this as 29 different appropriations, not one.
I mean, with the way it's put before us, John, that's an excellent question. I mean, could we effectively do a piecemeal? But with the way the order is written, it's all transfers for all the items that are listed.
So it's all.
If we had the ability to amend or make changes, that doing it piecemeal could potentially be done. But I don't think that where the legislation is written in its current form, we would be able to effectively do that. It would be an all or nothing affair.
Okay, well, thank you for the clarification on that. So with that being said, and I think as Nick opened the meeting up with every dollar being so tight, I don't know how I would vote for something that I don't believe the whole number is being used effectively. So I'm going to vote nay, but I'm not going to recommend that we vote on anything unless we get this thing back and do it piecemeal then.
So what then what I'm hearing then, John, is and Josh, fill me in if I'm saying it wrong. What I'm hearing is there may be a desire to, I'm not saying table, but defer to our next meeting in order
I'll
to
send
take
my
action.
questions out tonight. Yeah, I'll get them out tonight, and just so we get more information. I don't know if other people feel the same way, but I went through every one of these and I had my questions out. I forgot I was supposed to send them to you, Lori. So I had an elderly moment, I guess, or something. Not sure.
Don't feel bad, John. I'm 42. I have those every day. I'm lucky I can remember my own name.
Just a kid.
but I would love to get them back out, and I can't vote for this thing in total the way it stands right now.
So Josh, as I noted, that would be what we would need to do, is we would need to defer to the next meeting with which to then take final action on it. Is that correct?
So you can continue it. What I would recommend, MJ,
That was the
is
term I was trying to use.
yeah. So what I would recommend is if you would like to communicate, what you guys are considering and what you guys are trying to do to town council, I would just ask a statement from the chair, and then I can deliver that to Debbie, and she can provide that to the town council president. But I think, and they'll make that decision at their meeting tomorrow is, how they move forward on it. But at least they'll understand that it wasn't like you guys didn't have quorum or anything. It was that you guys are trying to procure additional information.
Yeah, I think that's if I'm reading the committee properly, and members can chime in if I'm wrong, but it sounds like the desire right now is to continue this item to our next meeting, and that I, as chair, convey through Josh to town council that our committee wishes to have a little more time with which to fully deliberate on these matters so that we can take a full actionable vote on it at our next meeting. Is that correct?
Can I ask a question, Madam Chair,
Sure,
before,
Mr. Knoll.
I guess my question would be whether we do anything or not tonight, town council can still vote on it tomorrow, is what I'm hearing.
They can, but like I said, it's not like before where you guys didn't have a quorum and they just voted to move forward. At least with MJ reaching out with your guys' deliberation after tonight, you'll have something going to town council.
Even still, they still can vote on it as
Yes.
they
Yep.
see fit. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah,
No
thank you.
problem. Did anybody else have any questions or concerns or comments? All right. Seeing none, I will entertain whatever the motion or pleasure is of the committee.
So, excuse me, MJ, I would assume we can make a motion to continue this.
You don't
That's
have to
correct.
motion to continue. Nope.
We don't.
Nope. It can just continue on the agenda.
Fair enough. Thank you.
All right then. Then my action will be is I will write up a note after this meeting this evening and convey that to Josh to be given to the council. Does that sound good, Josh?
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
Excellent.
And I'll give it to Debbie first thing in the morning.
Excellent. All right. All right. So then we will move on to our next item on the agenda under old business. Order OFY 26-045, adoption of a 5-year capital improvement plan. Because this is tangential to the item that we just acquiesced to continue, I would say that this may be a similar situation, but obviously for edification of the public, before we do any other activity, I will leave it to Lori to give a little brief explanation. She might have dipped out momentarily. You're on mute, Lori.
I apologize.
That's all right.
But I missed that. I had someone come in the office.
That's
Can you
okay.
say that again?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, so order FY 26-045, the adoption of a 5-year capital improvement plan. This is tangential to the first item that we've decided to at least verbally agree to continue to our next meeting, because these are sort of part and parcel, hand in hand. But before we take any action, I want to at least give a little information to the public about it.
Yeah, the appropriations are coming from this plan, so the plan will, be accepted or not, but the appropriations did come from this plan, so.
Okay. All right then. Did any members have any questions or comments on this particular item?
Not as such.
So I suspect that this will most likely be the exact same scenario that we had for the previous item. We'll agree to continue it to our next meeting, and in my transmittal to the council, we will indicate as a committee that we wish to have a little more time to in addition to the information we'll receive for FY26-42, we'll be able to give a more fulsome decision and actionable recommendation with that for the additional item here, FY26-045.
Absolutely.
All right. So,
Can I interrupt real quick? Sorry.
sure.
Sorry,
Hey,
I'm
Justin.
joining a little bit later. Good evening, everybody. Obviously, I'm joining later. I know you guys have deliberated since 7. Obviously, I was meeting with the council. Just so I know, because I know Lori will think, what other deliberation is necessary? What was
So-
missed? Because
yeah,
I don't
so,
think we received any questions.
Yep. So to give you the TLDR on this one, Justin, one of our members did intend to send questions. Unfortunately, they did not send them. But members, just based upon the conversation that we've had, transfer order FY26-042, they've asked me to transmit a letter to the council to ask for additional time to our next meeting to deliberate the questions that they may still wish to have asked of both you and the finance department. And then right now, since we're on FY26-45, the same situation, because they're both part and parcel, they're tangential. They're looking to continue that to the next meeting as well, before they can give a recommendation. And I'm willing to write a statement to Josh to transmit to the council of that intent.
Okay. Is there a way, and just for my interest, I mean, obviously there's 2 orders. Were any of those questions based on the orders of the transfers for this fiscal year?
I believe so. I know that Mr. Higgins had multiple questions that he wanted to ask. He unfortunately missed the opportunity to do so. And I know some other members, based upon our conversation, also had some additional questions. Mr. Palmieri and I think Mr. Knoll did. And I want to make sure that everybody has a full opportunity to actually ask the questions. I know that I had mentioned it in our previous meeting, if folks did have questions, to transmit them to Josh. But it looks like, with the holidays being as they were, folks may not have had that chance. So tonight is that it has been made known to me that folks would like to have that opportunity again. And then we can at least tell the council that's where we stand, and then we can take our final decision on it.
Yeah, I understand that's obviously within the purview of the FinCom committee to do that. I would just say that obviously the council their budget subcommittee just met. So we did that work there. I'm going to transition, Lori's transition. We're going to transition the general fund. So I really will impress, because we did say this before, if there's questions, feel free to reach out to Lori, myself, but let's be time sensitive about this. We're transitioning to the operating budget. That's our focus. We'd like to get the capital done, and move forward. Okay.
Madam Chair,
That's all I'll ask.
if I may.
Yes, Ms. Sullivan.
I think from my perspective, it's kind of frustrating to not have a couple of opportunities to discuss something this big. I think I'm also struggling with the order in which we've been asked to vote on things, because it's weird to me to approve a transfer before I've approved the plan. And I want some time to digest the capital plan over a couple of meetings. You guys have done a ton of work on this. There's been a lot of discussions, and to ask for us to vote on it in a couple of hours one night when this is the first time we're having a chance to discuss it is really difficult. And so we're just asking to allow for that engagement. I think having Brad here tonight to talk about the IT stuff was really helpful. And we had a really productive discussion about that. And so we want to continue and we want to be engaged here, but I don't think it's fair to say, you have to vote right now on this massive thing. I understand the operating budget's important and we need to transition there, but we just need a little more time.
No, that's fine, but I think I will say this isn't the first time we brought it up the last meeting, and we didn't even get a question for Brad, but I said, Brad, I think you should come, because the last meeting there was query about IT, so I wanted to be proactive about it, and he wanted to be proactive about it and come. We didn't receive anything from anyone during that time period either. So I think the most important thing for me that I'm saying is that I hope that if there are things that are of concern or questions, that they send it to us and give us the time to do that. Because like I said, we are going to transition to the general fund part of this process. So if there is something that does need a department head, obviously communicating that with us, because I'm not going to have them come to the next meeting if I don't hear any questions from it, right? And I don't want this to be delayed unnecessarily if we don't have any questions. But I'm not saying that I expect you to vote for it tonight. I didn't say that at all.
Thank you,
So,
Justin.
so Madam Chair, Justin,
Yes,
it
Mr.
was
Higgins.
me. I had a senior moment, forgot to send my questions to Lori. I'll
It's
get
all
them
good.
out tonight before I go to sleep, bud.
It's all
Okay?
good. That works. Thank
All
you,
right,
Fred.
man.
Appreciate it.
All right. So that being said, so I think that's where the committee sits at this point. So, I'll be transmitting a message this evening after the meeting is over to Josh, and then I guess, for additional, when we do finally get to additional items for discussion, we can maybe potentially discuss when we want to meet again, if we need to meet sooner. And I think that would be beneficial. So that being said, we're going to continue this item as well, based, I guess, unanimous consent of the members. And we'll move on to new business. So we do have 2 items of new business. The first one is going to be Finance Committee responsibilities. A lot of our responsibilities come from the charter, and a lot of them come from the admin code. I don't know if folks have a copy of the admin code, or I know what's on the website is a combined document. It has the admin code, it has some of the older bylaws, it has the copy of the charter, and it has what the definitions are of committees, boards, and commissions. I'm just gonna try to dig in onto mine here, see if I can get it. Financial committee. It's my computer. Now that I need to get it, it won't do it. Just momentarily. I think this is the part from the charter. Yeah, it looks like, actually, this is section 14, so I think this is in the admin code. So according to the charter and the admin code, we have responsibilities as defined to provide financial advice to the town manager and to the town council on the yearly operating budget for all town agencies, which includes the regional school budget as adopted by the school committee. The financial committee provides financial advice to the town council and to the town manager on matters of long-range financial planning. The financial committee is responsible for advising the town manager on the annual preparation of the town's capital improvement plan, which we just discussed. It prepares a report to the town council on said annual capital improvement program and participates in public hearings called for review of that program. And then, after at least one public meeting, the financial committee shall report its recommendations to the town council on all financial related matters. And the financial committee shall have such additional powers and duties as may be provided by the general laws, town charter, or by an ordinance. And the financial committee is deemed an advisory and ministerial committee of the town. And then we have several interrelationships that include the finance department, town manager, town council. So that being said, as sort of like the groundwork foundation of our conversation tonight, I think the big thing that we need to understand is, how do we operate with those responsibilities, and what should we be doing to uphold those responsibilities? I think one of those things is we have a responsibility to do timeliness of our questions. That is one thing. And I think maybe I may not have articulated it clearly. So if that is the case, then that's on me. I apologize. I will get better at that. I think one of our responsibilities is to make sure that when we are looking at matters, that when we get our packet from Josh, that we're looking at it as early as we possibly can. I know we had roughly 2 weeks to look at everything, and I feel like that's one of our responsibilities. We need to look at that and dive in, and the minute something pops in our mind, we should send it along to Josh to give to the right department to get our answers. And I think that's an important aspect. But we do serve an advisory capacity. We are to advise and provide that advice in a manner that is helpful and useful and actionable. And I think with those guardrails in place. I think that's really where our responsibilities lie, especially with the way it's written in the admin code and the way it's written in the charter. Although I wish the charter actually said finance committee, because financial committee sounds like a prudential committee, which is a totally different animal altogether. So now that I've done my spiel about it, I think this is a good opportunity for folks to converse as to what we feel we can offer up to fulfill those responsibilities based upon what I've just read off to folks. And I think that will lead into what our discussion in item B will be, and that will help direct us. So I will open it up to members to I guess opine on what we can do to fulfill those responsibilities as listed, and if there are new responsibilities where we may be able to express and state that we think that these are responsibilities that we have, or we can realistically perceive per the charter and per the admin code that we are endowed with to conduct business on.
MJ, if I may.
Yes, Mr. Palmieri.
Dana, thank you for what you said, because it's basically exactly what I was thinking. The budgets are prepared over a long period of time with the town. And that's hours of time spent on these things with all kinds of background, all kinds of conversations, probably in person with many of the town departments. And then I come from the corporate world. I'm still new to this. This is only, I think, my third or fourth meeting. But in the corporate world, this would never happen. You would not go to a meeting without all of the information. It's kind of interesting how we are. You're absolutely correct. Based upon the charter, we are an advisory committee. But still, we have a role, and our role is to recommend what we believe is the right thing to do relative to the spending of funds or appropriation of funds by taxpayers of this community. And in order to do that, it's one thing to take and have a document with information that isn't full to begin with and create questions. But when you get in front of a group, as we do like this, sometimes your questions are answered without even asking them, because somebody will bring something up and it gets brought up and it's answered. Sometimes by hearing from some of the department heads, you will get some of this information. This is what they've been doing all this time for months, and we're expected to do it in 2 meetings or 1 meeting. I know it sounds great, and maybe there's that, well, this is how it's been done for years. Well, you know what? I'm not going to sign my name to something that I don't feel comfortable with. I have to live in this town, and in speaking with people, there's always questions. Why did they buy this? Why are they spending money on that? And there are people out there much smarter than I am in various fields, such as IT, for instance, and asking questions that just I don't have an answer to. But that's why it's good for us to get to speak with some of these people. And then we can make these decisions. You know what? And if it takes us 4, 5 meetings to do that over a period of 2 months, they spent 6 months. And what they are is, and think about it, they're the people that are going to be using and spending that money. So everyone sees things from a different perspective. And I'm very concerned. And I think I said it earlier, there are things coming up that I don't know where the money's going to come from. We have unfunded the retirement and health insurance. We're talking millions of dollars, and we only have a few years. And I believe, from what I've been hearing from other communities, that the state's pushing back when the towns are asking, hey, you know what, we need to kick the can down the road a little bit, because just like you and I are doing right now, asking for more time to literally go over some of this, they're saying they want the same thing from the state, and the state's saying, we don't think we can let you do that. We've kicked the can down the road for too long at this particular point in time. So I'm a little concerned when I see some of the things on these. I mean, we have to replace a computer after 3 years. The one that I'm sitting here doing the work on is 6 years old. Works perfectly fine. I update my software whenever it's necessary, and it works great. So I think sometimes, yep, there's fantasy land and then there's reality. I may have gotten off the track a little bit on this, but I'm sorry, so I apologize. But I feel strongly about it because that's my name that goes on that, and I think that we should have integrity with our votes.
No, I fully agree with that, Nick, and that's one of the things. That's, I think, one of our responsibilities is we as a committee. I won't say we as an I because I'm not using the royal we. The finance committee is designed to be deliberate and slow. That's the exact intent of this committee, to be an oversight group in that manner, that we provide that advice and that direction. The committee itself in the past, and I can say this from experience, having been their secretary for a long time, that was one of the things. The FinCom would get tranches of legislation in one meeting, and they'd be asked to go through all of it in one go. And back then, this was before the admin code came into place. This was before folks really understood what the charter was really asking for. And a lot of work was put on the table for the FinCom to figure out, but they could only get it done in one meeting or only a few meetings. I think with the way FinCom is currently set up, with our makeup that we have, I personally, as a chair, feel like we're more well positioned to be that closer, more carefully monitored, deliberative body to be able to converse on these items, such as a capital plan, such as the budget. I fully agree with the town manager that in order for everyone to be moving along in the process, this is something that probably should have been brought to us right at the start, the outset, because that way this committee could stay on the same page, because our collective responsibility is to be able to slow walk through conversation and deliberation the actions that they're asking us to take a recommendation on or to not recommend. And where that lies with our responsibilities, I fully agree with you that we should be at least expressing more vociferously that the committee deserves the ability to fulfill its requirement to deliberate and review and then give the recommendation. Because you are correct. It does have that appearance, not only to those of us who are on the committee, but also to members of the public who have watched our meetings the last few years, that we get this at, some would say, in the 11th hour. I know personally it's not the 11th hour, but it does have that perception, and perception is reality. And, to your point, we're trying to be more responsible and open and transparent to the public. It behooves us to have that ability to state and say, hey, let's slow this down a moment. You've given us the expertise. We need to be able to read that and then be able to act on it. But to ask the finance committee to act upon it in one meeting or two meetings, when a lot can happen. A member, maybe analogizing it similar to John's situation. What if he had been out for 2 or 3 weeks? What if he had been on vacation, or he was delayed on a vacation overseas, couldn't get back in the United States, didn't have access to his email. He wanted to ask those questions, didn't have a chance to, for whatever reason. Or you just don't have the electronic communication. Delays and stuff like that can happen. So we need that time to be able to fulfill that responsibility. So I fully agree with you on it. And I think that's why we're having this conversation tonight, is like, we want to be able to say on record that we want to be able to slow it down, read it, understand it, ask the questions, and act on it. I
Madam
think
Chair,
that's I think that's what the majority of the membership is looking for. And I feel like that's what I'm hearing, not only from you, Nick, but also from John and from Rig and from Dana. And frankly, I appreciate it because it's been a while since I've heard something like this. It's actually rather refreshing.
Madam Chair, if I
Yes,
may.
Mr. Noel.
Thank you, Nick, John, MJ, and Dana, and everybody else. I share a very similar sentiment. Um, like MJ, this is my second or third go round, being on this committee, because I see the value and the importance of having, someone on the committee to ask why. Because that is such an important question. Why do we need this? Why do
Amen.
we need that? Why does it cost this much? Um, and I think, when I first came on board, right? And I appreciate my colleagues that I worked with, the very first time I came on board, but the feeling of that pressure, like you need to vote on this today, when we just got it, right? And to everybody's point, there is a lot of, there's a lot of discussions that are happening, before they even, before the leadership got to this point where they're presenting us with, whatever it is that they want us to vote on, and being able to, have the information, digest it, go back and ask the follow-up questions, digest the information that we're getting back. That's not a one or two meeting, um, um, sort of perspective. We totally understand, it costs money to operate, whether it's a town, whether it's our own personal finances, whatever it is, it absolutely costs money. However, I think that the people in this town have spoken loud, time and time again. No, we don't want our monies, our dollars, our hard-earned dollars to be spent in a fashion, in a manner that continues to put us in the red. We want to be effective with our dollars. Yes, we certainly understand that our dollars need to be spent to operate, to do the various things that needs to happen. But they are counting on us, even as an advisory committee. They're counting on us to ask those questions. Likewise, they are counting on town council, town manager and other leadership, to be able to ask those questions. Why are we doing this? Why are we spending, $230,000 on technology? Have we done the analysis? Have we done the research? Have we done all of this? Have we exhausted, everything, where we have two or three quotes in front of us that says, here's why we're doing it, here's why it's needed, and here's the most cost-effective option that still gives us quality service, or quality equipment, and it's a cost saving to the town. So I appreciate this group for your perspective and helping to peel back some of the onion, because I think part of the reasons why this town has been operating in the red, and this is my opinion, is because, decisions are just being made, without peeling back the onion. So thank you, and I share the same sentiment.
And to your point, Rig, the other thing is if we are able to take the slow, deliberative route, we're putting respect on the work that our colleagues in the departments have been doing. Laurie and Ashley and Scott and Shelley, everybody in the finance department, and then everybody in the management and leadership team. This is literally their bread and butter every day. And I had the experience of working with a bunch of them for a few years, and I can tell you right now, they are passionate about this work. And the one thing that I personally coming from public service experience and being a public servant still, is that to know that I'm putting in my work and having the public deliberative body be able to put respect on that work, to, converse on it, ask the questions, get the insight, because it is our responsibility to honor the fact that they've put in that work and helped us to run government. And then for us to be able to ask the questions, see if we can find efficiencies, and challenge what has been provided to us, because they know their realm of work. They know what it is every day. The majority of us are not from that field. So, it's almost like a friend of mine likened it to almost like motorcycle club rules. You can play in their world, you don't live in their world. In this instance, the majority of us here are private citizens. We're from the private sector. And these folks, we're in it but for a little bit of time. So we need to be able to respect the work that they've done by being able to take it, read it, understand it, and then be able to ask the question. That's something that I feel, as those responsibilities I mentioned earlier, I think that we need to be able to be more vocal and say, yeah, we want to be able to slow it down, because Lori's given us all this information. We've gotten data from, say, Shelley, or we've gotten some information from Chief Del Monte or Chief Schlatt. We need to be able to think about this. We need to be able to understand, okay, well, it's $50,000 for a repeater. Okay, what's a repeater do? What's the importance of it? What's the impact if we don't, replace it? Or, the chief of police is asking for a new cruiser for a shift coordinator. Okay, well, what does a shift coordinator do? How does this vehicle help them do their job? That's what helps us understand it. And then when we need to take action on it, we can all say at the end of the day, we did our full work, because everyone else in local government did their part of the work to bring us to that point. I think Nick, I think John, I think Rick and Dana and everyone else, I think that's what we need to do. I think as a result of this conversation, I feel like that's something that I feel like it's not something that we need to vote on. It's not really a voting thing, but it is something that I personally, and also as chair, would love to reiterate and communicate to both the council and to our town's leadership team, is that there is a vital tool as a body of government the finance committee serves, to be able to slow down the process, give deliberation, and then give recommendation. And I think if we are able to do that, if that's something that I think folks would agree is an important thing to do, I'm all for it.
Substantially.
Mm-hmm.
But MJ,
Yes, John.
Just a frustration. Well, the way I view this thing, and it's more, Dana, you probably have a better way of saying it than I do. But for example, we're being asked to vote on a capital plan for the next 5 years. It's not engraved in stone, but I can't even envision what that would look like, because when I think about the town, we look at it operation or the town government, then we've got the enterprise funds, and then we've got the school. And altogether, we got $90 million to go split up. We're going to vote on a capital plan for 5 years. That capital plan is all part of that whole $90 million. How can, if health insurance goes up 20%, guess what? We've either got to cut people or we've got to cut capital. We can't, the town, as you said, Rick, has voted loud and clear. We don't think we're going to give you any more money to spend than what you have today. So how can we vote on a capital plan without knowing the overall picture that we're going to be in for this year, for next year? I mean, even when we come to these meetings, I've been quite adamant. We should have some kind of a scorecard. Everybody can look at it and say, okay, here's where we are. And on a side note, I've done a lot of personal work on this. You can ask Lori. She's been funneling me information, and I've been working on it. I can better understand it myself because I do better with graphs and pictures. And I just have this feeling that we're coming to a very bad conclusion a lot quicker than what anybody realizes here, because we don't understand all the debt that's there. We don't understand how we're going to pay for the unfunded liabilities. Yet we continue to hire, we continue to buy new cars, we continue to buy whatever the case may be. I know we're only given small raises, but the benefit side of this thing has grown immensely. And each and every one of us needs to understand that whole picture to go figure out, should we allocate it to capital, human, or equipment, or do we allocate it to the debt? Or do we need it for free cash? Do we need it for a rainy day fund? And then how do we get this back on a sustainable level? Because I don't see this. I think we're headed for a bad way a lot sooner than a lot of us realize. And it's going to either be an override or we're going to pay for it in headcount. And I hate when you're only left with two decisions in life, especially when we can avoid that. So that I guess the overall tone of my speech would be, we need to understand the overall picture every time before we go down into this minutia. And then to go and force us to vote for a 5-year capital plan, by tomorrow, we might as well burn the paper that it's written on, because we don't even know how we'll fund that capital plan in years 2, 3, 4, 5. I agree, for 2026, it's sitting right in front of us. We got to come up with something, but we need to understand how that fits in the whole thing.
Yeah. And I fully agree with that, John.
Home run. MJ, if I may.
Yeah.
Laurie, I have a question for you.
Sure.
You know, after reading, when I was asked to join this committee, I went and checked into the charter to see exactly what it said we were supposed to do. So we are an advisory committee. We're advising the powers that be, in this case, our council, as to what to do with the funds that we're getting. You know, we take in X amount of dollars and it's going to be spent. So, and it really is interesting, because as we had said earlier in this, and I thank you, MJ, this is really a great piece, I think, and necessary, certainly. And Laurie, I appreciate the work that all of you guys do. I mean, it's having worked in budgets on a corporate level, I can tell you that I used to have more hair. And I don't think you have to worry about that. But bottom line is that it's not easy. And one of the things that happens in the corporate world is your budget process starts literally at the beginning of the year for the next year. You are already started.
Yep,
So
I'm already looking at 27. Yeah,
okay.
I already started in November. So yeah.
Okay, so you can. The point that we've been making here is that, and I think MJ said it pretty perfectly, is that we should be just like you. We should be just as involved at the same time. This way here, guess what? Those questions are gone. So when we get to that point, and by the way, that also should include hiring. I mean, do we need these positions? Do we need that new position? Do we actually need another fireman? Let's look at the overtime. Let's look at the how much was spent on full time. These 80% of any budget is salaries. That's so important.
Right. Yeah.
We should have the school information. And by the way, it says in the charter that we should have access to all of that information. There's nothing in there that we should not have information for. And the last thing I was going to ask you is, what's the possibility, and I don't know where it is in your world in there, but when we get information by department, it would be really great to see all of it, not just this is what the IT department, and the IT department it's very deceptive, because it is in so many other different budgets. If we got a single, this is the entire IT budget. Here's how much we are spending on salaries. Here's what we're spending on equipment. Here's what we're spending on licenses. All of that information. You know what? That's how you can make a decision.
Yeah, it's great So I'm happy that we actually have a committee that cares. So, I've been doing this a few years now, not as finance director, but in my other role, but I always did the meetings anyway. And, Rig can testify when he first came on, like it was like, oh, okay, what are we doing? Oh, yeah. And any questions? No. And then it was just moving on. Like everyone was like, I don't know, what are we supposed to do? So and I think with doing it virtually now is different than when we had it in person because, I think in person, you're talking over the table, and years ago we used to have the department heads come in and talk and, hey, let me tell you a little bit about my operation, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, that's important for you guys to learn, about the operations and the capital needs. I mean, it, for each department, right? What is it made out of? What does the day look like? What's the quarter or the whole year? Like, so I get excited, and again, I'll start talking all night long. So I'll just stop with this. But yeah, we have that all that information. You'll see when we come to the operation budget, we segregate each employee. Like you might not see employee's name, but you see the
Don't
roles,
need, right.
you see their employee numbers, you see their salaries, and then you see, office supplies, and then you see like, the IT budget has all kinds of subscriptions or software.
Mhm.
Like, so you have all these line items and they are in the monthly financial report. You can kind of drill in and see it by account. But yeah, we can even open that up, you know, by detail. Like, yeah,
That,
there's a
that would
lot
be,
of information that is coming through. So I know we try to like summarize it for you, but we can also break it out and give it to you in detail. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot of information, and I know you're all volunteering your time. So I'm excited to see a group that really cares. And as much as um, John says it, I love talking to John because he pushes back and he wants to know what's going on, and I love that. And I'll go back and forth with him all night long about it. I just think it's great that, you care about your community. I care about the work here. So you know, I I love that you care too. And I know there's a lot of people that come in and out of the town hall. Some don't care much, but a lot of people, most of the majority does care. And I'm proud to work here, and I try to get people involved. Our staff, we got Ashley still hanging in there with me. But yeah, we are here to help you understand. We're here to help the residents understand where the money goes, where it comes from, what we do with it. So that's our job, right? So we are
Mhm.
here to help you guys make your decisions. We're here for the information to feed you so that you can make those decisions. And I like seeing the group engaged. And you guys can meet like 3 times a week if you want. I'll pop on and give you all kinds of good stuff. Then you won't have any more questions. So
At
Remember,
that
this
at
is an
that point we become at that point
avocation,
yeah, at
not a
that point we
vocation.
become full time. And
exactly,
I don't think some of us can actually do this, and some of us actually
I
just
know.
got new jobs.
Through you, MJ, but Laurie, we're lucky to have people like you in the town, and I hope you don't take this as a personal that we're getting on you. We're
Oh
not.
no.
We're just trying to do our job.
I
You know,
know. And again, I'm happy to be here to answer any questions and as best as I can. But I know you would love to hear from. I mean, it was great to have Brad here. He could probably talk all night long
yeah.
about what he thinks and what he spends money on, what he sees. And we do, like you said, we do spend a lot of time on our own things. So when we're talking to you, we're like, God, why don't they get it? Or like, I know you shouldn't get it. Like, why would you? I mean, you'd have to digest this information. And even as you're digesting it, I said to Josh, like if they have questions, like I know I'm not supposed to directly, but I don't mind you sending the questions, if it just comes out and you want to say for the next meeting, this is on the agenda, like, can we talk, can you have this ready? I'm all, as long as it's on the agenda, we can talk about it. So,
Mhm.
I'm all about that. Any questions you have, send them ahead of time if you want the police chief, if he's available, or he could send, his executive
A
lieutenant
representative.
or
Mhm.
something to talk for him. So we're always, especially during the budget season, I think this year will be, a lot of engagement like that. So I'm looking forward to the budget process with everyone and trying to bring you along at how it all goes. So
And
Okay.
I definitely have to agree. I think one of the things that was really helpful, at least what I observed when I was secretary, was having town officials be in on the meeting. In this case now virtual. I think that was one of the big things that I found was really helpful to the finance committee back then was, having the chiefs come in, have the park and rec director come in, have DPW and water division come in and just speak with us because that allowed them to slow down. I can tell you right now, like 2013 to 2015, we, the committee itself, and I was their secretary, the group carefully deliberated on things, and then along the line, things kept changing or we didn't have enough quorum. But it is something I personally, as chair as well, would love to see have at the meetings again, is to have officials come in along with Laurie and Justin or their designees to come in and speak before us. I think that ties into our responsibility to be able to deliberate and advise. Because without their voice, we can't advise. So I think that's something else that I think I would most likely say on behalf of the committee, at least to those of us who are in the process along with us, which would be the council and leadership. Did any other members have anything that they wanted to contribute to the conversation?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Dr.
if
Bennett.
I may. I know I usually don't say very much during these meetings, mostly because out around me on my dining table, it looks more like a preschool arts and crafts class with the notes, the highlighters, the pencils, and all of the other that I have spread out in front of me on this. Question for Lori. Would it be more complicated to be provided a line item budget for specific departments as part of the paper of the documents that you send us before meetings? Would that make that more complicated for you, or is that a possibility that we could talk about?
Well, in the monthly reporting, it is separated by department and line items. So I don't know.
Yes.
Did you want more than that or?
More specific for each element of the budget for a particular department. For example, if we were going to be discussing emergency services, fire, police, public health, etc., if we could have an independent for each section that we could go through and do a comparison of last year versus this year and so forth. I, coming out of an academic, I tend to look at data comparisons, and I think that would be helpful for a lot of us to see what we did over the last couple of years versus what we're planning to do this year.
Sure.
Okay.
I can provide you that. Yeah.
Okay. And also with that, could we possibly get any information on vital statistics for the community? While it may not seem very important to the budget, it would be helpful in understanding what the for example, the school, what does the population of students look like? What does the population of seniors look like? How we can kind of break down the what is most essential in the budget for different services and availabilities. Just kind of a ballpark estimate of what our community actually looks like.
So what I'm hearing, Dr. Bennett, is you're looking at more like a based on demographics cost analysis for efficiency.
Correct. Because if you're not too familiar, basically it would give an idea of how much per person within a typical demographic, people 65 and over, students in the elementary, junior high, the high school, if we're talking about education, a general population base, if at all possible?
Um,
Or is
on
that something that
on
would
the
be more
DOR
complicated?
website, yeah, there's a DLS statistical website that we send all of our reporting to, and all those. I don't know if the seniors might be broken out, but definitely the DESE website has all the student information and population by year of how many
Right.
percents are
Okay.
in the high school and the elementary, and it's separated by Bridgewater and Raynham. So there's a DLS website, and there's a lot for you guys to learn. There's also the I don't know if MJ you've talked about the finance the Mass Finance Committee group.
Yeah, we have.
They have a lot of free. It's free. It's great. It's having a membership in there. They give you a lot of detail of how cities and towns operate and what you can do in your role as in a financial volunteer role. So there is some things out there, and we talked about Justin and I talked about having some kind of like a class, not a class, but like an academy of putting some of those statistics together and just kind of giving everybody like a breakdown of um not a citizens academy, but like a town hall operations academy, like and something to that effect. We're in that framework of trying to put that together so that we can better educate people that are volunteering their time, like you get a good idea of so that when somebody comes on to the committee, they can like read this information and try to get a handle on what goes on, so we are working on trying to get that in addition to a lot of other stuff. But I hear what you're saying, Mr. Bennett. There is the DLS website has a lot of statistical information by cities and towns, and um, they connect to the census website. They connect to the you know gross income, and like they have a lot of data of different things in for each community, but I can
Okay.
put together some information, that gives
That would be wonderful.
you guys a couple of websites and links. So
That would be greatly appreciated, because really, I think it would be helpful to know, to break down how much are we talking about per family, per individual, per household,
yeah, the average
based on that.
household, yeah, their
Exactly.
earnings, their average, average size family, average size tax bill and things like that.
So I like to think about we've talked about how this is going to affect the taxpayers. How is it going to affect John and Jane Q. Public who live in our community as well? How is it going to affect future community members as well?
That's a valid point, Dr. Bennett.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be important. I think the other thing you had mentioned, Laurie, was actually the committee group, the Association of Town Finance Committees. I believe that's through MMA. I can't recall if they have a specific contact that the committee could ask Josh to reach out to, or if the town needs to reach out directly to MMA. I recall in the early days when I was secretary that they used to get an invoice, and the chair used to be invited to their annual meeting, which used to be in the fall. I don't know if it's changed since then. It's been a long time since I've seen one of those invoices and seen any of those meeting invites. But I don't know if that's anything that we can still be dialed into.
I can find out for you.
I would appreciate it.
Mhm.
Because that way, even if I'm not able to attend one of those group meetings, one of the members of the committee could do so and report back to us. That used to happen a lot. I remember I remember Chairman Gary Oldman used to do that, and then Eric Langone, when he was on the committee as well, would go. It was only like a couple of years that I recall, but whoever could make the time, it usually happened on like a weekend or a Saturday, and they would be able to attend. So it is something I think that the committee would certainly like to see again if it is
Yeah.
available, and
It
be
just
able
gives
to.
you that chance to
Yeah,
see what other communities, how their finance committees, or what are they made up of, what are their roles, how do they,
exactly. And what type of
figure
work
it all
product?
out. Yeah.
What type of work product that we're able to report out on? I
Right.
know I know from a personal experience, um, looking at other municipalities, I am familiar with at least one municipality whose finance committee does. I was actually told by their chairman, um, Bridgewater's finance committee doesn't even do 40% of what they should be doing. And I kind of took that I was quite taken aback because I felt like the committee's been doing a great deal of work. Is there more that we could do? I'd love to hear from other finance committee chairs across the Commonwealth and get an idea, because that way it can give me information to share with all of you, and we may be able to hybridize that approach and still fulfill our responsibilities that we that has precipitated this conversation. I think that would be great.
Well, some additional comments following up on Dr. Bennett's stuff. For example, I think everybody here would be interested to understand what the debt per household is for the town of Bridgewater, not just for the school department or for the water or the sewer, and what we're committing to for the next 4 to 5 years. One thing I learned about tonight's meeting, just because it's in the capital budget doesn't mean we spend it all. So in 2025, what was a capital budget and what did we spend? And what was done with the leftovers? That would all help in the decisions on the micro level. But I think every taxpayer would be very interested to know what we pay for debt, how many employees, and what's the effective full-time
Exactly.
hires that are all those kinds of statistics from a management standpoint, without us getting into the weeds with Lori, because Lori, you do a wonderful job getting it out to us. But those would be helpful to me to understand. What is the average payroll cost per employee? What is the debt cost per resident? What is we can figure out the school cost, but that's changing as well as people move in and out of the school system and the debt and everything else, and that would give us a better overall picture to help allocate the limited amount of.
These are all great points, and folks, I appreciate that we've been able to have this conversation this evening. And I think we have a good place to start from. And as part of my correspondence, I'll write a separate set of correspondence, one for the items that we've discussed previously, but also what the nature of our conversation has been on this item. And I will be sharing that when I'm able to those at the top, so they understand we mean business as a group. We want to get business done because that's what we were appointed by our appointing authorities to do, and that is what we intend to do as a group. Because now that we have a full membership count and our group has folks invested in this manner, we can get some serious work done. We can make some serious, profound change. And I think to close out this part of the meeting, I think this is a great starting point. And I'm glad we're having this conversation, because it has been a very long time since we've had that sit down moment and have this type of conversation. And I'm glad that I have colleagues who are now present to be able to say that and be able to put that out there, so that the public, when they're watching back this meeting, will understand, okay, they're actually here. They mean business. They do know what they need to do. At the end of the day, I want them to know that we know how to play ball, and we can ask the questions, we can make the decisions that we need to make, and we can give the advice to those in charge to be stewards of the public interest, because that's what we swore our oaths to, and that's what we as a finance committee are responsible to do. So I thank everybody for that. Now, having said that, I think we can move on to the new business item, letter B, and we'll see where this conversation takes us. I know members had expressed previously that they would like to have a conversation on what type of subcommittees the FinCom could form and interest of folks to be on those committees. A subcommittee for a board of 9 members should consist of at least 3 members.
Mhm.
I was thinking about it over the holiday weekend as to what types of subcommittees we could have. And I certainly want to hear folks out on it because subcommittees can be formed for a single issue or for multiple items that all fall into one bucket. Case in point, I'll give you an example. A couple fiscal years ago, a member of the town council offered up a piece of legislation that would create a capital expenditure policy, and the finance committee created a subcommittee on capital expenditure. Mr. Knoll was a part of that group along with me and another member. And while our group did not go as far as we expected it, the legislation eventually died on the vine due to the fact that the legislative session for council sort of ran out at the end of the fiscal year, and it was not renewed because the counselor that had offered it was at that point no longer on the council. But it gave us the opportunity to be a small research group, to make requests to the school district and make requests of the town government to get a better understanding of what at that time was a legislative proposal that the finance committee was being asked to give advice on. So that is something that we can do as a group, just as an example. Another group can be a budget working group. 3 members can be the ones that can be the chief reviewers of what we're going to get and then report back to us to give everybody, I guess, essentially cliff notes or too long, unable to read. I won't say TLDR, I'll say TLUR, unable to read, just because, it's not that no one reads it, we all read it. We can have those types of small groups, so small working groups. Capital improvement plan, certainly, because it is in our responsibility to give some sort of advice on a capital improvement plan or, capital asset plan. This committee can have a small working group of that. And I think I kind of know who might actually be on that group, so I'll leave that to them if that is something that the committee indeed does have pleasure in doing. But the committee can have small groups, but I would say the minimum would be 3. Same rules for open meeting law would apply. If you're looking to meet, you would probably, and Josh, you can back me up on this. They would probably need to give 48 hours notice and have an agenda. And
Yeah,
then,
so if I could just piggyback off that, I would probably recommend keeping the subcommittees to a maximum of 3. Just because if we get a quorum of members of finance committee members, we have to dual post. So we'll have to do a subcommittee and a finance committee posting at that point.
Mhm.
Same thing if any of the members do want to attend, which is that would be fine. So anytime that we would have like a collection of members that pushed it 5 and up, we would have to just be sure that we're posting as a finance committee and a subcommittee. But it would be easiest if we kept it at 3, if that helps.
And I totally agree with that, Josh. Thank you for that clarification as well. So that being said, let's have a general conversation about what we would like to see and see if we're gonna leave the meeting tonight with some subgroups. So
Ma-
let's
Madam
have at
Chair,
it.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Knoll.
So like you, I was thinking about this as well. And thank you for outlining,
Hmm.
your suggestions. I guess the way I was thinking about it was, if perhaps, we can identify how many key departments that exist within the town and then break up into subcommittee groups, to take on 1 or 2, be responsible for 1 to 2 departments, depending on the number. And those respective subcommittees would be responsible for taking a deep dive in their finances and their request for finances and their budget, everything that's got to do with numbers and money. Then that way, this would perhaps give us an opportunity to begin working with each department much earlier. and then the subgroups can, after every meeting, maybe carve aside some time to give, a report on what new information, they might have discovered in their conversations with leadership of those respective departments. The other thing I was thinking about is, one of the things that I think is a challenge is that the public themselves, for whatever reason, obviously people have busy lives. We all have busy lives. Um, if possible, maybe creating. Let me back up. If possible, and doesn't violate um, any laws or rules or whatnot. I would love to see a subcommittee group that would be solely responsible for engaging, and that doesn't mean that other folks can't engage the public, but solely responsible for engaging the public and hearing directly from the public of what their challenges are, what they would like to see from a finance perspective in terms of their tax dollars being managed. Um, and again, that group can serve as, as a way to kind of bring their challenges to the forefront. When we're having these deep dive conversations about dollars and cents and budget and capital and all of that, right? And then there's some level of demonstrating our full commitment to the public to say, hey, we hear you, we want to hear from you, and we're going to bring your challenges to the group. So those are the two things that I was thinking about. But certainly I'm not married to any one of them. I'm certainly open to other thoughts and perspectives that folks may have.
So, from what I'm hearing from this, Ray, what this would actually be more of at that point would be, it wouldn't necessarily be subcommittee or work group. They would basically be committee liaisons to those specific departments because there are multiple departments. It really would lend itself more to a singular committee liaison to that particular department to understand their budgeting parts of their financial aspects. I think that can get a little bit slippery. But it is a good concept, a good idea. Um, as it relates to constituent services, as it were, being able to liaise with the public or get their input, I think that's more of something that would be a constituent correspondence. But I would tread carefully on that simply because our roles and responsibilities, we don't have that component in there for constituent service on it. That being said, though, it doesn't prevent a member of the public from asking us questions during the public comment session or sending the town a question that if it is germane to us as a finance committee, we could certainly try to answer it. But I would tread very lightly on that simply because constituent correspondence can sometimes lead into, I'm not saying it would happen with this committee, but it is possible at some point someone could get a response, then copy a member, and then a member copies another member. And that could effectively violate the open meeting law, which would be a very big problem. And that is something that as chair of the committee, I'm hesitant to say what we should do on that. I would certainly leave that to something I would ask the town manager about before I even say we should go ahead and do that, because primarily finance committee needs to be protected from any liability or risk that we could expose the town to in that regard. And I appreciate what you're wanting to, hear from people about. I just don't know if we have that mechanism that we can do that. And That said, though, I know Josh could probably give us a little bit more of a detail on that. If someone wants to email the finance committee and ask us a question, I wouldn't see why the public couldn't do that. But as it relates to a member of the committee responding back directly to someone in their capacity, the risk of somewhere along the line somebody copying in CC or directly responding to another member could create an issue with the open meeting law. But on the other side of it, the other item, I think what you're looking more towards would be a finance committee liaison to a specific department, and then they report back to the committee in whole when the committee is speaking or discussing overall budget. Because what can happen is prior to any budget discussion, say for instance, you're liaison to the fire department. So you're getting information about the department budget from Chief Schlatt or his designee, the deputy chief, or from their administrative assistant to then provide back to us. So that when the committee gets the budget for fire department and it says the fire department needs $7.5 million to run for the fiscal year, you would be reporting back to say, I know the committee has the $7.5 million that's been proposed. This is what it breaks out to. This is why, the chief said it this way, and this is why they want us to make this recommendation, or, this is the recommendation they're seeking. We can have that discussion in whole. I think that's more of a committee liaison thing as opposed to being a subcommittee or work group setup. And I'll leave it to Josh for the constituent correspondence part, just because I know that could lead into some very prickly bushes.
Yeah, so
Madam Chair.
I think if anything, just to help, if they wanted to send questions, and they didn't want to participate in the public comment or whatever, we could get them in the packet for the public comment and read them in the record, if that would help. But yeah, I think MJ, I think you spelled it out correctly there.
Thank you both.
Yeah. But I again, Rig, this is why we're having this conversation, so we can spitball these ideas and figure out where we can and can't do things, or what we might be able to do, or what we can try to vision. So I appreciate that, and yeah, folks, no idea is a bad idea. We're looking at all sorts of things. So I think, yes, Dr. Bennett?
If I could offer, instead of doing a sort of a person to person, what if instead every few months we had an open forum with the public? We met at town hall. We had an open dialogue with the public. Would that be something more feasible, where they could ask question or give commentary or such, and have a discussion perhaps before a town meeting or such?
I think I understand where you're going with this, Dr. Bennett. It's similar to what the town council has to do pursuant to the charter, where they have to have one open meeting, or at least one open meeting per calendar year.
Mhm.
That's basically a smattering of let's throw everything at the wall kind of thing, see what sticks, and then act from there. Knowing what I know about the charter, knowing what I know about the admin code, I'm not sure if the finance committee can have that type of forum or that ability to do so. The advisory board, if I recall back in the day, had sort of that ability there, but that was through on their agendas, I believe, as part of a public comment or citizens open forum portion of their meeting. That's why public comment ends up being on our agendas of each of our meetings, is so that someone from the public can come in and ask and say, at you're going to be discussing this evening. This is a financial measure that relates to the Park and Rec Department. I think it's one of those situations where we wouldn't be able to answer them directly in that moment. We would have to answer them at our next meeting.
Mhm.
But again, not knowing what our limitations are, I would certainly be looking for more guidance from leadership to have a better understanding of
Right.
how our interaction with the public. If we as a committee can have that type of open meeting with residents and community stakeholders, I think that's a great thing. But I just want to make sure, as your chairwoman, that the committee is fully protected as it relates to the law, and we're not overstepping boundaries. One thing that it's been my experience in local government is that your laws and regulations are in place to perform a certain duty or purpose. And while you may have the intent to want to do something, inherently you're not really able to do so because there are limitations under law. Case in point, like Josh had mentioned with any subcommittee, if you did end up having, say for instance, their 3-member subcommittee meet up and say it's me, Chris, and Nick, but then Dana, Rig, John, and you want to show up to the meeting. It doesn't create a conflict. It creates a instance where you're pushing the limit of what the law could be, and you don't want to do that because it can lead to thornier issues down the line. And I'm not saying that this is something that would happen to the finance committee. It's just been my experience as a public servant, but also understanding public meetings, having gone to many selectmen's meetings and many other types of meetings throughout town government history in the last 20 years, is that at some point, someone, while they may not necessarily have the best interests of the town at mind, they may say that there could have been some sort of malfeasance or inability to abide by certain regulations. And while we as public officials have followed all of the rules as best we can, there's always a room for error. There's always a room for a possibility that it may come off as perceived, which is why, like when people talk about conflict of interest, you always have to say, could there be potentially a perceived conflict of interest?
Right.
While you may not see it, there could be a perception. And again, perception is reality.
Yes.
But it is something I think would be a good idea. I just don't know if constitutionally, under the town charter, we have that ability.
Okay. That's fair enough. I just wanted to throw that out. But I do think, sort of moving back to the topic and discussion, I do think definitely there would be a need for a subcommittee on capital planning. Otherwise, that would be the one area that definitely comes to mind that we would want to start with. And
I wholly agree with that.
I feel as I would, having been the capital planning liaison for the Halifax School Board in a previous experience, I'd like to volunteer to be part of that.
I was just about to say, it sounds like you're volunteering for the capital planning subcommittee, Dr. Bennett. That being said, would other members be desirous of joining Dr. Bennett in that group? Again, we have to have a maximum of 3.
A question before we go forward with, hold on, is this going to include the enterprise funds and the school as well? Or are you just looking at capital planning for the town? And because, for example, the enterprise funds, the biggest portion of the debt is now going to come through water, sewer, and whatever we do at the transfer station. And I think somebody here ought to become very versed in either the enterprise fund or in debts and recorded but unfunded liabilities for all the different areas of the town, because you're going to be shocked at how big that number is.
Yeah. So I think in this instance, I think for this is just the capital plan on that. If you're looking at long-term debt, that could be another. So I think what we could vision here right now is there's a capital plan subcommittee, there's a long-term debt subcommittee to deal with OPEB and other unfunded liabilities. I think that's what we need, and that would work. Yes, yes,
I'm sorry, MJ, would you include, as John said, probably a good idea to, the enterprise funds, because there's a lot of money just, that is there that they dip into. Be good to know exactly what we're dealing with.
hmm No, I think for the capital plan part of it, I think it would include the enterprise budgets. That those are vitally important systems. And while they operate on a different basis because they're paid for by just the ratepayers, like water and sewer, and the transfer station is an enterprise fund, and previously the golf course was. I think because those are paid for services, those absolutely should be a part of that capital plan subcommittee, because those departments are really part of what capital improvements are going to be. I mean, the for the 5-year capital plan that was given to us, part of it had I believe, the rotating biological contactor in there to replace a very large piece of material that has a lot of mechanical need and repair. And I think that's something that, as part of a capital plan subgroup, is vitally important. I would agree that it would be a part of it. So
Definitely.
Mhm. So I would say if the 3-member group for the capital plan is being established, it would include capital improvements to town buildings, town assets, but also the enterprise funds, because even though they operate separately, they are a part.
Mhm.
So I think that would be in there. Obviously, whatever, if the group has its first meeting, that can certainly be stated as their charged affairs at that point. But I think that would be the overall intent that we're putting on record tonight, is that the capital plan subgroup would be focusing on those items. The other group I think that I've heard is that for long-term debt planning and debt obligations, I think that's another group. And I think that their charge is to review all long-term debts up to and including long-term borrowing, OPEB liability, and oh gosh, I can't think of the other liability. There's other groups of long-term that we're going to need to look at. And I think that second group has that charge. And I think when they meet, they can at least solidify that and say that that's what their stated mission is, and then go from there. So right now, I hear for the capital plan, Dr. Bennett is at least one. So I think if I have 2 more people who are willing to jump in, who would be willing to jump into the pool?
I'm happy to do it, but I would really like to be on the operating budget group
Okay.
as well. I don't need to be on both. I prefer operating budget. That's just where my background is primarily.
Yep. And I say play to your strengths, Dana. So you'd be on the long-term debt part of it. Okay. So I have 1 for each so far. So who else would wish to join our colleagues in their subgroups? Don't everybody jump at once.
So MJ, you're not including anything with the school. So when they come and ask for their $1 million in additional capital, we just take it and say, okay, that's good? Or how do we feel about that?
So, John, I'm glad you asked that question. There's a reason why I intentionally left that off that point.
Yeah.
I think the school district is a vitally important entity to the town, but also a impactfully expensive one to the town. It needs its own small work group.
Of course.
It genuinely needs its own small work group because the school district is budgetarily significant. If you're looking at it from a percentage, 60% of our town budget effectively goes to the school district. While Bridgewater Rainham is a relationship of 50-50 between both towns, 60% of the municipal budget of $100 million here in Bridgewater goes to Bridgewater Rainham Regional School District. So to have a separate school group is absolutely important. So I think we have capital, we have long-term debt, and Bridgewater Rainham School District. And I think that's what we need. So if I'm hearing correctly, John, would you be willing to be on that group?
I don't know enough about the school. I don't even know where I would fit into this, but for example, the unfunded liabilities over on the school have to be in the $80 to $100 million range as well, because that's what they are on the town side. And so now you're looking at just one small portion, but now you're going to have two different people becoming experts at unfunded liabilities for both health and
Exactly.
pension, and for long-term debt and funding of long-term debt. And in addition to that, you got $140 million you've already authorized to borrow for the sewer and water in the next 2 to 3 years.
Mhm.
So somebody needs to understand the total debt picture of this town, because at some point we're going to reach our limit. And I might be crying wolf here, but it's going to be sooner than we expect. If the sewer and water thing goes through and all this unfunded liability stuff doesn't get some relief, somebody needs to go look at this thing 2 to 3 years out from a total town standpoint to understand and get back to the finance committee that this is what it's going to be. I mean, I took a look at the debt here, and it's crazy. It real not crazy, and we get it. Everybody says, "Well, we're normal." We most certainly are. You look around; everybody else is in the same boat we are. But the one big problem that they all have, that we have, they don't have, is we don't have water right now, and we can't grow. But everything in this budget is growing. By salaries are growing 5% a year with benefits, 5 to 6% a year, and that. So I guess my point being is the unfunded liabilities and the debt needs attention from the whole town, because that bond rating is going to affect both sides of this thing, because it is one taxpayer that's paying all of that and is going to be subject to having to pay all of this back, including the enterprise. So that's one place where I would disagree. So I'm not volunteering to do just the school part. I am very knowledgeable on debt and unfunded liabilities, especially after I've studied the town. So, but I wouldn't do it just a piece of that.
Okay. Well then, I mean, that being said, John, then
But if not, put me wherever you think I'd fit in best. Otherwise, if you want to go the other route with it, but I'm just from an overall standpoint, that's what concerns me the most about this town.
No, you make a valid point, John, and I think it's important to have that perspective. The long-term debt group should be holistically town and school as one then.
Absolutely. Absolutely. MJ, I think it's important. There's so much crossover, with the schools and with the town. If you segregate it into those kinds of things where it is you've got the expenses, you've got what you're dealing with the capital, and then you've got long-term debt, and you've used the long-term debt as a single group. That can be one of your subcommittees, and what you'll have is you'll have people on this committee that actually can speak intelligently about all of that. And I think that is the elephant in the room that is not being looked at, and it's starting to creep out into the municipal world. It's being talked about more and more, and people are starting to become concerned with it. And one of the things John just said a few moments ago was that you've got salaries going up at 5%. That means that you're adding more to that long-term debt with your retirement. So, that's jacking up the retirement. So all of these things, it is a bomb that's just waiting to go off. And I think people are getting a little concerned when they're saying their tax bills that are going out. I had one call tonight, asked if I got my tax bill. And I knew where that was coming from. And I think people are starting to wake up a little bit. So that needs to be done. That we need to know exactly what we're dealing with that. That's a huge piece to this puzzle.
Yep, absolutely, Nick. I agree with that fully. So right now, our long-term debt group would be school and town combined as one, and I would be looking for at least 2 more people to join Miss Sullivan in that effort.
You can add me to that.
All right, so I just need 1 more. John, you'll be it?
Yes, yes.
All right, so Josh, what I'm going to say is we're going to give this subgroup the official title of Subcommittee on Long-Term Debt.
Okay, you'll want a motion for that.
Yep. I would enter. If I can have a motion to that, we can make it official.
Well, maybe we should call it long-term liabilities, because it's just anything that affects it.
Okay,
Right.
Yeah,
Dr.
probably
Bennett, would
better
you be
one.
willing to amend your motion?
So amended.
Okay, so, do I hear a second?
Yeah, second.
Seconded by, I'll call a tie. I'll give it to John, though.
He's taller than me, so that right away.
All right, we're going with height difference. Okay, then. That being said, Josh, can you take the roll call, please?
MJ,
Aye.
Derek,
Aye.
Rig,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Dana,
Aye.
Nick.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Alrighty, so,
And MJ, just before I forget,
mhm.
so just for the first meeting of these subcommittees, we're gonna have the organization. So somebody's going to have to chair, and then they'll also need to they're gonna need to elect a secretary to take
Mhm.
minutes. I already have like a full
Yep.
schedule of committee meetings. I can get the meeting started. I can get the recording started. I can assist in some little ways, but I won't be able to do minutes like I do for you guys. Um, and whoever chairs these committees will need to come up with agendas. You don't have to have like a formal agenda. It would just be something that you'd email to me, some items, and then I can get it posted and everything.
Mhm.
And again, that's just like you guys currently have 48 hours, not including weekends or holidays.
Okay.
All right, so, at that point, would it be germane for us to actually do that organization right now, or does that need to be done in that organization meeting?
I think it would be okay to do it right now,
Okay.
just because everybody's here, and I don't think that it'd actually be okay to do a scheduling too, real quick.
Okay.
I'll nominate Dana.
Well, I want to make sure we're playing to everybody's strengths and abilities. So, who in your working group could probably?
I can share it. That's all right.
All
I'll
right.
second that.
All right. Motion to adjourn.
Not so fast, Nick. So right now, basically the subcommittee for long-term debt is going to be, the chair is going to be Dana Sullivan. Who of your three, Dana, and guys, you can talk about this. Who do you think would probably be best to be your secretary? Who's got really good note-taking ability?
I can do it.
Can
You
a chair
both?
be a secretary too, Josh?
No, we need somebody else to be secretary.
Okay.
Yeah. So, John, Nick, which one?
We might have to fight, like have a pistol duel outside for this.
Let's not do Weehawk and Don guns drawn thing. We're not doing
As
hammer
long
reenactment.
as long as we do 48 hours notice, that's fine.
Yeah.
All right. Wait,
This
can we do
meeting's
that?
being recorded, buddy. You're on tape.
Yeah.
Can you type, John? Can you type?
I'll be the secretary, Nick.
Okay,
Come on.
so John will be the secretary.
Wait, hold on. Dana has to nominate me. She didn't say she
Oh,
wanted me.
I
Dana,
nominate
sit
John as secretary.
I'll second that.
Good.
Thank you, John. Listen, that's so great. We have Dana and John.
Okay.
Perfect.
So now that we have that one ironed out,
Can we
I
go home
know
now?
for capital plan, Dr. Bennett had offered to be a part of it. Do I have other members who would wish to join?
Okay, Rig. There you
Rig,
go.
you would like to be in the
Yeah.
work group?
I'll
Cool.
do that. Dr. Bennett, you could be the chair.
Well, we need a third person to be a part of it before you
All
guys
right.
make a decision. So, who would like to be a part of that? I can be a part of one of these subcommittees, right, Josh?
Yep, yeah.
You can.
Yeah. I mean, I know my work schedule now, so I will offer to be a part of the group too.
Okay.
And
So,
be the
Josh,
secretary.
so what we'll do is, I guess, am I able to make the motion on it, Josh?
Yeah, you can make the motion for it.
All right. I'd like to make a motion that we name this one subcommittee on capital plan and capital planning.
I second that.
All right. And we just need to take the full roll call vote, correct, Josh?
Yep. MJ,
Aye.
Derek,
Aye.
Rig,
Aye.
John,
Right, that one.
Chris,
Aye.
Dana,
Aye.
Nick.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
write down the title so I can remember it. I will ask if Dr. Bennett, since you offered to do a little bit of the lifting here, would you be interested in being secretary of our little group?
Could you let me think about that for just a second?
Of course.
Okay,
Okay, so you want to be you'll be our secretary.
I will.
All right, excellent. Rig, you okay with that too?
I'm perfectly fine with that.
Cool, I'm good with that. So I will wrote Dr. Bennett is secretary.
And you could be the chair.
And I guess I volunteer myself to be chair.
Awesome.
Alrighty. Cool. All right. Secretary. And MJ as chair. Okay. Just write that down. And just so I have it here, capital plan and capital planning. Got that written down. All right. Looks like you're odd man out tonight, Chris. You don't have anything to be on. I apologize.
It's all right. I mean, if there's any way I can be involved in the groups or help out in any way, I'm willing to do so. So
You know what, Chris, would you like to be on our committee?
Well, again, John, we can only legally have 3 people.
3 people.
Otherwise,
Chris can join the meetings. That's fine to and discuss with you guys. Where we run into an issue is if you guys were discussing something and Chris wanted to join and then Rig wanted to join and Rig's not part of the committee. So then you have a full quorum of
Yeah.
finance committee members. So
Right.
that's fine. We just need to make sure that we're posting correctly.
Mhm.
So if you guys anticipate that, and I'm going to be touching base with you guys all the time on these. Just make sure to let me know, and I'll make sure to get everything posted correctly.
He's just all alone by himself there, just asking to be on a committee. So Dana, beg for him to be on our committee.
Don't
Come
worry.
on.
When Mr. Lightford is back in a meeting, I will personally see to it that you guys are in your own working group for something.
There you go. Perfect.
that works.
That would like
Mind
that.
is already thinking as to what we could possibly do. We'll ballpark it.
Yeah, we have Mark also.
We do have Mark. So another subcommittee could be. I'm thinking this right now, just to hold it as a placeholder. Something that relates to open space and community preservation funding. That could be a subcommittee. I think that would be important too, because that's going to tie into how our parklands, and how community assets are preserved. That's something that I think that's something that you, Matt and Mark would be well positioned for. And I think that could be something that at some later date, once we have everybody here, we can have them say, we volunteer them in absentia.
Alrighty, that
Great.
works.
Great, cool. So I think we've managed to achieve what we needed to do. So the next item is, and our secretaries will be in contact to get dates rolling for meetings. Are we able to set out what we want to do or when we want to meet?
So yeah, you can discuss scheduling right now. It's
Okay.
that doesn't violate open meeting law. You can also, if I hate to say it, but you could do an email. But I'd rather you guys do it right now
Mhm.
versus us trying to do it in an email, because then that's where you get a little bit.
Yeah, don't want to run afoul of OML. That can end up being very bad.
Yeah, so if you guys wanted to discuss the 2 committees meeting right now,
Mhm.
and then you could do just I can put it on the agenda for for you guys to discuss more of a concrete schedule. But just getting something in motion right now. Especially considering tomorrow is town council, so you might be getting referred to additional items.
Mhm.
You do have your 2 old business. So there's going to be a finance committee meeting coming up within the next week.
Mhm.
Because the 19th is a holiday.
Yep.
And I believe the town council meets on the 20th. So
Okay.
just with those things in mind.
Mhm. So we'll go in reverse on this one, since we just the capital plan subcommittee will first start out when we want to meet. I'm thinking right now, my schedule during the evenings is fairly flexible. I get out of my office around 4:30 in the afternoon. I can usually be back here for a virtual meeting by at least 5:30. Well, actually, probably closer to 5:30, 6 o'clock. I can do Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays. If need be, we could always do a Friday. Uh, but I certainly want to do that because I know Town Hall in Bridgewater closes early on Fridays, so I'd rather it be more during the more full work week part of it. I'm not sure what the pleasure would be of other members. I certainly would lean on y'all's scheduling to get an idea of when we want to meet next. Like I said, I'm good Tuesday through Thursday, and if we have to an extreme, Fridays.
MJ and Dr. Bennett, I would advocate for Tuesday.
Okay.
I have a pretty full schedule, but I would advocate for our subcommittee to meet on Tuesday,
Okay.
anytime between 6:30 and 7:30 or so.
Okay. Dr. Bennett, do you have that same type of schedule or
I have
availability?
that. I am very flexible as well, so that would work for me.
All right. So knowing the timetable, so we start looking at more future capital plan stuff. I would say, let's see, I'd say our first opportunity to meet would probably be the 20th. Gives us some time to actually develop the agenda and send it to Josh to be published.
I'm cool with that.
Okay. No, January 20th. And 6:30 would be okay for y'all?
I would think
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then obviously it'd have to be virtual, right, Josh?
Yeah, I would recommend it, especially on Tuesdays because town council meets in person.
Mhm.
And they usually use the room that allows for recording.
Yep. So we'll remain virtual then. Okay.
Yeah, you guys are going to see a lot more flexibility with virtual for these subcommittee meetings because, like I said, we have a lot of committee, especially because it is budget season. We have a lot of committees meeting and very active, and we only have the capability to record in one room right now.
Okay.
Okay.
And since we're gonna do it on the 20th, you'd need the agenda from me by 14th, right?
Yep.
All right, then I will get that to you in that period of time. All right, now that we've settled that out for us, just to confirm, the subcommittee on capital plan and capital planning is going to meet for its first meeting on January 20th, 2026 at 6:30 p.m. And the members are myself, Dr. Bennett, and Mr. Knoll. All right. So now we will see when the subcommittee on long-term debt obligations
Liabilities.
and liabilities will be meeting. So, folks, I will let the floor open for y'all.
Okay. How do Wednesdays work for both of you?
Wednesday works fine. If we could just do 7:30 because that's after my kids go to bed and it's a little crazy to try to get it done before.
Okay. Yep, that's fine. John?
Yeah, that'll be fine. And then we'll do it for what, just an hour or 40 minutes?
Yeah. Let's just lay some groundwork and figure out exactly what we need to dig up and who we might want to talk to.
So Dana, if you have a little bit of time, if you want to call me off record, I'll share the information I have with you, and then see what we're going to put up and see how we go about it tackling the issue.
Yeah, if you guys are meeting on the 20th, do you guys want to meet on the 21st? So we're not meeting, we can meet the same.
21st works for me.
Okay. Our committee will meet on the 21st at 7:30.
And that raises a question, MJ and
Yeah.
Josh. Can we get a listing of, the members of this group and their emails and cell phones so that we can communicate freely without, or is that located somewhere already?
It's not usually located anywhere, and I don't usually share it because just reiterating the open meeting law violations. And also some people don't like to share more than their email. So if that's something you guys want to share between each
Email's
other,
fine with me. I'm,
yeah, I just tend to discourage it because again, anything that is just being discussed between emails or phone calls should actually be going through me to the whole committee. That again, with how small your guys' subcommittees are, two people would be considered a quorum at this point. So that's something you just want to be careful of.
And I would honestly, to build upon that, I would genuinely recommend that you avoid that type of communication and send everything through Josh. That way, you guys are protected from that because if it happens that you violate the open meeting law, I don't want to have to encounter that situation. It can be difficult. So I would say definitely follow through the way Josh recommended.
Yeah, if we got any public records requests, they would just go through. They'd reach out to me and I could show them the emails versus having to reach out to you guys and go through your emails.
okay. Okay, so the 21st is what we're looking at.
Yep. So then you'd need the agenda by the 15th.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And like
we'll
I
do
said,
it.
just general items. It doesn't need to be formal or anything like that.
And
Okay.
we're talking, we're doing virtual or we doing a live meeting I would assume if somebody's there, that meeting room upstairs.
I can check the availability for the room on Wednesdays.
Dana, what did you think? Because when you said your kids, you probably have to
Want to
stay
do it from home?
make
I
sure
can
you
do
it.
either.
I think to keep it I think just to help you guys out on this, I think to keep it consistent, you should do it in this particular type of forum. That way, logistically, it's easier, and I don't want folks to have to go out, especially since it's been like ridiculously cold. We can
Mhm.
still, collectively groups can still meet online. It's a lot easier for these small groups to be more nimble in that regard. Plus, also, as I recall, with the way the restriction is listed on the disclosure, we effectively can't meet inside the academy building until that restriction is lifted when the law, phases out in 2027. Until such time as the town makes a firm decision on who can and who can't meet inside the building. I right now know it's just the council and citizens advisory committee that I'm aware of.
What law are you talking about, Mike? That's
So on the agenda, that disclosure I read, that's effectively saying no in-person attendance is permitted. That's basically limiting us to virtual because the town has not adopted a hybrid model in the exceptions of the town council and their subcommittees. This committee can't actually meet in person yet until such time as the extension granted under the general law in in 2022 lapses on June 30th, 2027. Right now, with the way the law was written, any committees that were meeting virtually via Zoom at that point when the extension was made are still to meet until such time as a municipality can develop a policy of what committees can meet and what resources that they're using. And that's sort of the limitation under general law. And the previous town administration basically put it in place that with the exception of town council and its subcommittees, no one's meeting in the academy building until it's completely I'm not sure what the conversation looks like right now, what that plan is.
I'll be there in a moment.
Right. They're right now in the moment the only group that's allowed to meet in the building. Like planning board's
Didn't
still
we
remote.
meet there? We met there a month ago.
Yes, but you have to remember though that meeting was a joint meeting with Budget and Finance Subcommittee. And that I think that was like the restriction or the limitation.
Yeah, I can help out a little, MJ. So we are allowing some special meetings to happen.
A little bit.
Again, because we need to record the meetings, we are at the limitation of that one room being able to record. And because of the limitations of staff right now, it's hard for us to do hybrid meetings because we would need somebody in the building as well. And then we'd need somebody online too. So if you guys wanted to come together for like when it gets time to discuss the budget with budget and finance, we can definitely do an in-person meeting for that and make sure we schedule it and reserve the room way ahead of time. It just might get tricky for you guys to hold subcommittee meetings. Given again, it's just one room available. And the town
So
council
let's
might
do
be meeting
virtual
in.
then. I think that
Yep,
makes sense.
that's right. Zoom's fine.
But if you guys want to do it later on, we can definitely plan and get you guys set up though.
Fair enough. Excellent.
All right, so we have our groups and we have our dates and times to meet. I'm looking
We're in.
forward. I'm looking forward to seeing the work that we're going to be doing soon. So congratulations, you've all been drafted.
And can
So
we just get the scheduling of your guys' next finance committee meeting while we're here?
yep.
Okay.
So from what I heard from them, I believe their subcommittee is going to meet on Wednesday, January 21st at 7:30 via Zoom.
Oh no, I'm sorry, the finance committee.
Oh, the finance committee, our next meeting, the full group. Okay, just looking back at the calendar here. The next opportunity to meet would probably be January 26th in full.
Well, we could meet next week. Like I said, I'm getting I don't know for sure what might be getting recommended to you guys. Again, I forgot to ask Debbie this morning. But you guys couldn't meet the 19th, of course. But you get so that would leave open the 12th, and it would be in time to get the items that are referred tomorrow or the 26th. So I would just
Well, the 19th would be Martin Luther King Day, isn't it? We'd
Yep.
be closed.
Yeah, that's why I said the 12th or the 26th.
Okay.
So depending on how quickly you guys can get your questions to me, then we could do the 12th. Otherwise, just as a point of reference, it'd be 2 more town council meetings that didn't have your guys' vote for the old business.
Okay. So, folks, having that in mind, I'm open to meeting on the 12th next Monday, but I'm also, I'm cognizant of the fact that folks might not be able to get their questions in when a good chunk of us are going to be working on trying to get our little subgroups going. I would say, what is the pleasure of the committee?
I can do the 12th. I just sent my questions in to Josh and you, MJ, and Lori. So I'm not going to be the holdup this time.
Not to worry, John. It's better now than never, I always say. So I appreciate that. So if there aren't any objections, folks, we can meet next Monday then. Does that sound okay with everyone?
Sure.
The meeting will still be at 7 o'clock, right?
It'll be 7 o'clock. Yep.
I just need everybody's questions, by the end of this week, so I could get them over to Lori, and then that way she can get that information for you guys.
Yeah. Do we want to set since I know town hall will close on Friday at 1 o'clock, I would say just for the purpose of expediency to at least give Lori time to look at the questions, I would probably say no later than close of business on Thursday, if that's
I think
okay.
it'd be helpful for her.
Yeah. So, folks, if you do have questions on the 2 items that we've moved to the 12th, please have them in no later than 4:30 p.m. on Thursday, January 8th. All right. So now that I've said that, we now have our meeting set for Monday, January 12th at 7 p.m. Same time, same channel. All right. So since we've now sussed out all those parts, we've done additional items for discussion. I think we are positioned to do our other favorite motion of the evening, adjournment of the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dr. Bennett. Josh, can you take the roll call, please?
MJ,
Aye.
Derek,
Aye.
Rig,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Dana,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved. Meeting's adjourned.
All
Have a
right.
good one,
Thank you,
everyone.
everyone.
Thank you,
See you on the
everyone.
12th.